out of apartment 5B.
You're now tuned into the Apartment 5B podcast, where we chop it up about hip-hop, R&B, sports, love and life. Hosted by Kill.
And we are the crush grooving, the body moving, the record making, and the record breaking. Oh yeah! Oh my God! And we are.
What's good? You into an Apartment 5B hosted by your man Kill. I got my squad with me in effect today. I got my brother Vague from the BK. What's going on, good brother?
What up, man? Chilling back in the dungeons of Rizat, you know.
He back in hey, it ain't hoodie Vegas right now, so you know what I mean. We good to go. We good to go. My brother Eddie out of LA. What's going on, good brother?
Yes, sir, man. I'm here, man, and this was not planned. You know what I mean?
Nah, it wasn't.
It was just we synced. We synchronized.
There you go. Bench to the Turtle. Vague, why don't you tell them a little bit about that? What that is right there.
So that is a single off of me and Kill's project EP entitled Will Matic. It's all about the well-known, you know, figure in hip hop. Never put out an album, never put out a song. Ill Will from Queensbridge, Nas' friend, also my cousin. Just me talking about, you know, him from the perspective of a family member, and giving people more insight to who he is, because, you know, shout out to Nas, he definitely put his name in the game. But I think, you know, with this project, talking about him in this way, you get to know who he was, not just to his family, but who he was on the block. And Bench to the Turtle is just one aspect of who he was back then. They don't have the turtle out there no more, so people like, Turtle, what you talking about? Like, nah, look on the cover, he's touching it. That thing used to be out there.
All right, no doubt. So where can they cop that?
Hold up real quick, because here's a tidbit that I didn't know, and I was out there all the time. Ill Will's brother, Kennedy, told me. He was like, oh, the sprinkler? I was like, no, the turtle. He's like, yeah, water comes out of that. I was like, water has never coming. It never came out of that shit. We just jumped on it. Like, so it's just funny to hear him say that, and he younger than us.
Right.
Stuff never worked in the hood anyway, man.
Right.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. It was supposed to have water shoot out of it. It just never did. You know what I mean? Right. But Vague, where can they get that? Where can they get that joint at?
Oh, you can go to vegasworldinc.bandcamp.com. But also, if you know you ain't got no pennies but you want to hear it, you can download it for free, or you can donate. All proceeds go to Ill Will's aunt, Miss Percy, or Aunt
Ill Will's mom, yeah.
Oh, right. You know what I mean.
Right.
But also, if you wanted to check it out, and you on Apple or Spotify or whatever, you can also listen to it there, or you can buy it on iTunes. It's everywhere. Will Matic, Vegas, Kill. Check it out. It's dope. And spoiler alert, we're gonna get some vinyl, because I think it's time.
Okay.
All right. That's what it is. We all know me. Let's get right to it. On the timeline this week, a little not hoopla, but it started off. It's how I love building topics like this. It started off, somebody asked me, hey, Kill, does Jadakiss have an album doper than the Chronic? And I'm like, come on, bro. Like, no, he doesn't have an album doper than the Chronic. You know what I mean? And then it got me just saying, like, yo, you know, people are like, yo, why doesn't Jadakiss have a 5 mic album? He's one of the illest. And I was like, yo, it's crazy. I never understood A&Rs in the early 2000s. They seem to be looking for the most gutter, freestyle, dope MC like Jadakiss, like Fab, like Cassidy. But then when they signed him, they put him in the studio to make radio hits. You know, so I never understood that. Like, why? You just want to make somebody make radio hits, you can just get anybody to make radio hits. So why are you looking for these ill MCs and then trying to change them or whatever. My man Easy Money chimed in and he was like, well, Kill, I mean, all street MCs want to cross, so if we keep it in a buck. And I'm like, I can't agree with that, because I know it's very known that Biggie did not want to make Juicy. So every street MC didn't want to necessarily cross over. And it could be, again, about your age. It could be about the decades. You know what I mean? Maybe in the 2000s, people wanted to cross over and things like that. So it started a lot of hoopla about that term crossover. And some people were like, oh man, you know, people just took what EPMD said and ran with it. And I'm like, nigga, you think the crossover started with EPMD? Like, this has been going on since the beginning of the music industry. So this week we are going to be looking at that term, because one of the things, the great discussions from the timeline was a crossover for me may not be a crossover for Vegas, which may not be a crossover for Eddie. We all have different definitions for the same word. So we're going to be looking at the history of the crossover. We're going to be talking about what is a crossover to you. Does it matter to you if the artist wanted to cross over or if it was the label that made them do it? And we're going to be looking at 5 examples of hip hop and maybe R&B of times when somebody crossed over and why we thought that was a crossover. And then I got like a couple of names and songs and albums to kind of just put out there to see, like, was that a crossover, yay or nay or whatever like that. So real quick, just a quick definition of crossover. It just says it's a term applied to musical works or performers who want to appeal to different types of audiences. You know, so if we're looking at EPMD, there was a time when it was like, you know, and it's so funny because who knew that 36 hours of my timeline this week would be spent on MC Hammer? You know what I'm saying? That Hammer would be looked at as a crossover group or a pop act or something like that. You know what I mean? And, you know, the whole Bad Boy era of, you know, doing, you know, making more popular music, you know, singing over Diana Ross samples and singing over samples, you know, that other people know. There were other artists. I'm going to try to see if I got it down here somewhere. There was a Source cover. It was Pharrell, Black Thought, and Mos Def on the cover, and it was the underground issue. This was the issue of them explaining why we don't cross over, why we stay underground, and, you know, we on Raucous and we backpackers. We don't do that. You know what I mean? So we're going to be looking at all those things. So tell me this, Vague. What is a crossover? When you hear that word, when you first heard that word, when you heard EPMD's, you know, single, which is their biggest single, crossover, what does that mean to you?
Well, to me, it means what I think it means to the Black community as a whole. You want white people to buy your music. And that's not talking about any white person who's a hip hop head who's like, well, I don't like that stuff either. They're not talking about you. They're talking about middle America white person, right? White person who doesn't listen to the urban station, you know, that listens to the pop station. You're trying to get your records or this artist in that rotation, right? Because then money comes into it. So for me, it was all of that, but with EPMD in particular, when they were saying it, and like Third Base with the gas face and all that, that vibe was more so of a sellout, right? Like if you left what traditional hip hop to do this crossover record, you were a sellout. So crossover, especially in the 90s, to me just meant, oh, that person sold out by you know, compromising the integrity of their art, their original art, you know, to make money, basically.
That's a good point. Eddie, what about you?
Yeah, for me, I think I like what Vegas said about compromising art. I mean, I feel like anyone who's like pivoting, doing something that isn't like them, whether they're, you know, artists that start using auto-tune or start doing more R&B record when they were more hardcore, or, you know, any number of the things, right? And I do think that there's a distinction between artists who experiments and artists who pivot to, you know, what's popular, right? And you could tell based on what's on the radio. And if such and such artist who was making, you know, boom bap hip hop, and all of a sudden they're drifting into the popular form of the genre, like trying to chase a hit that sounds like everyone else. It's an obvious crossover. Funny thing is, obviously, you know, like Crossover was one of EPMD's biggest hits, but they're talking about not crossing over. But then also for Gangstar with Mass Appeal, right? They even did that beat to make fun of elevator music, right? It's kind of talking about not crossing over, but in a different way. That wound up being one of their biggest hits as well. So
right.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah, I love what you said, Vegas, just about the Sellout, because you're right. You know what I mean? And just doing a little bit of research for that, I was like looking at, you know, different forms of crossing over. And this article I found was like talking about gospel crossing over. And it's kind of like when you're making, you know, more praise and worship music and more church, quote unquote, church music, to now you're making more music that sounds secular. You know, because I remember when Kirk Franklin first came out, you know, I remember gospel people. And here's the funny thing, you think about gospel and hip hop, because I think like those are two forms of music that to me are unlike any other music. Like, you know, with hip hop, I'm like, it's a culture. With gospel, it seems to be about rooted in God and your love of God. So, you know, not to say I don't know about country crossover. I don't know. You know, that's just music. You know, I don't know if country really is embedded in something, or you know, R&B or things like that. Of course, there's a crossover, but I think with gospel and hip hop, it's more deeply rooted into something. You know, if we looking at, I'm gonna use a couple of quotes from the Five Heartbeats. When you think about the Five Heartbeats, how Choir Boy's dad was furious with him. Like, how can you leave the church, you know, and go make this secular music? I'm sure half of the soul artists that, you know, that we have in the world most of them started in the church, you know, so crossing over just isn't like, you know, it is appealing to that other audience, but it just kind of struck me as like, yeah, I never thought about that, because I remember gospel people looking at Kirk Franklin like how hip hop people were looking at Puff, like, yo, you're ruining our culture. Hip hop people like Puff, you're ruining our culture, and gospel people were deeply rooted in that music was like, Kirk Franklin, you're ruining this. You know, you got Salt from Salt and Pepper up here fucking on Shout, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. So you have that. Then you also have the jazz crossover and the smooth jazz. You know, I remember my mom is a jazz musician, so trust me, when Kenny G came out, traditionalist jazz musicians, yo, you think that we lost our mind with some Puff shit? Like, yo, they lost like, this nigga, this white dude with this pony fucking tail is like, you know, I've studied jazz and I've, you know, and this is the dude y'all want to listen to. So there's always been this crossover, and it's just like he said, trying to get to a bigger appeal of stuff. Let's look at again, staying on with the Five Heartbeats, they also were talking about, I saw this, and it said, in some contexts, the term crossover can have a negative connotation associated with cultural appropriation, implying the dilution of a music's qualities. For example, in the early years of rock and roll, many songs that were recorded by African-American musicians were re-recorded by white artists such as Pat Boone in a more toned-down style, often with changed lyrics that lacked the hard edge of the originals. So, and that made me think of the Five Heartbeats when they're in the record label, and they're like, hey, y'all need to hear the Five Horsemen. And out come the five white guys, and they're redoing, you know, I Got Nothing But Love For You. You know what I mean? And it just, when I read that, it just made me go right back to that, okay, so then you also have that kind of crossover, you know, or again, the infamous scene where they're like, yo, you know, why do we have to cross over? You know, niggas always been crossing over. And then he says, you know, crossover ain't nothing but a double cross. I mean, once we lose our audience, we ain't never gonna get them back. Next thing you know is they'll be trying to change our sound, having us sound like white boys. And it's funny because it's the white boys who sound like niggas who are making all the money. Why don't they ever cross over to us? You know,
they do now.
Well, yeah, you know what I mean? But it was just, you know, it was funny, and it'll tie, that scene will tie into somebody who we're going to talk about a little bit later. But tell me this, one of the things that we were talking about on the timeline about this was Meph's and Mary's All I Need to Get By. Now, Vegas, was that a crossover song? Well, I love what you said in the 90s, because you're right. It really was about selling out. To me, even that's with Hammer, Vanilla Ice, all this stuff in the 90s was about selling out. You know what I mean? Did you look at All I Need to Get By with Meth and Mary, not the RZA version, but the puffy version that everybody heard on the radio? Was that a sellout move to you?
It wasn't, but I did think about it.
Okay.
Because I loved it as soon as I heard it. I prefer it over the original.
Yeah.
I was a huge Mary J. Blige fan, Method Man fan. To me, the beat was a hip hop beat. It wasn't. It didn't feel like they compromised, right? If he was rapping over something like how Juicy was,
right,
then that would have felt like a crossover. But this felt like, you know what I think made it easier? It was Mary. It was the queen of hip hop and R&B. So the beat was more of something that Mary would do, where you would expect a rapper to be on it. So for me, it made it more comfortable. But I did think about it because it got big, and I'm like, damn, this is kind of taking Method Man into a whole nother area from the Woo and what we're used to. So at the time, I didn't, I just liked the record, and I didn't feel like it was so much of a departure from what I knew with the Woo. Some of the things, even though I like that stuff too, some of the things they would do later, like features, made me feel like the Woo was crossing over. But I'll take that Jodeci remix with Ray and Ghost any day, because that shit was hot.
Right.
But it was clearly the Woo's version, or the Woo and Bad Boy, right? Version of them crossing over.
Right. Eddie, what about you? Meth and Mary's All I Need to Get By.
I don't think it was an intention to cross over, right? I think Puff was doing Puff, right? He got tapped for the remix. It's the same joint, Mary doing Mary, right? I think it was just a natural chemistry on that, but I feel like that led to Method Man crossing over, right? It helped him cross over as an artist without being necessarily a crossover attempt necessarily. I think other joints that he put out, like maybe that I feel like that D'Angelo joint was probably a more obvious crossover as him. The joint on his second album. But yeah.
Yeah, breakups to makeups,
Yeah.
All right. So you didn't see it like that.
What's his name from the Youngsters?
Karan did that joint. He produced that. He used to, I think he was like producing under Tone and Poking them or whatever like that. So yeah, he did that joint. And see, for me, I was telling somebody on the timeline, I said, for me being a producer, I think the crossover or the sellout move for me in the 90s was the beat. So again, like you said, Vegas, to your very point, like I said, if they would have been rhyming, if that song would have been over, Find a Raise, Get Over Like a Fat Rat, I would have been like, sell out, crossover, but because like you said, Vegas, it was a dope beat, like it's a dope beat, you know what I mean? Mary singing, but then I also understand somebody else, their definition of crossover may be, oh, you got a singer, crossover, sell out, you know what I mean? If you got a singer on your chorus. So again, same thing I was saying with Nas when I heard If I Ruled the World. The second I heard him rhyming over Friends, I was like, sell out, done, crossover. Somebody else may be like, oh, I don't mind that, but then they heard Lauryn Hill, they like, oh, sell out, got you. You know what I mean? And then you put both of them together, it's the double sellout. Like, god damn, you singing over Friends and you got Lauryn Hill on it. You know what I mean? So I think like that's the thing, like we all got, because I never looked at that joint as selling out. But the other point that you brought up, Veg, that I was writing down, that a lot of people were saying on the timeline was, a lot of people look at the crossover based off of record sales, based off of it was on MTV all the time. It sold this many records. So if you went 5 times platinum, you had to sell out. And I'm like, not necessarily. You know what I mean? Like, you might, but not necessarily. Like, one guy on the timeline was saying something, he was talking about kind of like people, and he was like, yeah, because of Hammer, Vanilla Ice, Biz, House of Pain. I was like, whoa, how you throw Biz and House of Pain up in there with Hammer and Vanilla Ice? He's like, oh, well, this song's on the radio and it was here and it was there. And I'm like, OPP was not, again, to me, there's a difference between a pop song and a popular song. Those are two totally different things. OPP was popular. You Can't Touch This was pop. You Can't Touch This was on commercials. I didn't turn on no goddamn Snickers commercial and see OPP playing. You know what I mean? Like, it was popular, but it wasn't pop. And I think, again, because people would just say, oh, it's on MTV, so it must be a sellout. You know, like when I heard Just a Friend, another great question. I didn't hear, oh, Biz sold out with Just a Friend. I didn't think that. First of all, them drums, again, it's the beat. Those are some of the hardest drums in hip-hop. You know what I mean? Just from the door, like them drums is hard as hell. Like I guess the singing, but that's just Biz being Biz. Like to me, that's when people don't know about hip hop. That's just Biz being like it'd be like if Old Dirty did that. Like Old Dirty singing wasn't shit. Like that's Old Dirty doing Old Dirty. Like you know. But what did you think about Just a Friend?
Well, no, I think you're making a really good point because there are those records that crossed over by themselves. Like you could tell they didn't set out. Like Annie Up was a crossover record, but it's about robbing people. But it became so popular with an audience that's not the typical hip hop audience. It's still baffling to me that I'm like, do they know what they're saying in this record? Like, that still kills me. Like, he said, snatch him out the car. Like, you know, kidnap that fool. But nah, when I heard Biz joint, just like you, it's like Biz being Biz. He got a hit, you know. It was catchy. And the fact that he couldn't sing was a draw. Now, he turned, because he crossed over as a result,
he had to try to keep it going.
Tried it again, and then that shit felt like crossing over. Like, oh, here I go. There's another one. It's like, nah. Like you said, the beat was the difference.
Yeah, yeah. Them drums, I mean, yo, them drums is just hard as hell. But again, I think that's where sometimes, and even when people who aren't from the culture talk about the culture and you don't understand, like Biz wasn't a one-hit wonder. Like I've seen like shows on VH1 like, oh, Bismarck, the one-hit wonder. I'm like, nigga, one-hit wonder? That nigga got a bona fide 5 mic classic CD with going on. Like, what the fuck wrong with you? But the only Biz they ever heard was Just a Friend, and then they never heard him again. And it was like, oh, well, he was a one-hit wonder, you know. But that's because you never knew Biz in the beginning. Eddie, what about you? Did you think Just a Friend was a crossover attempt from Biz?
Not really. I mean, I felt like that was just Biz and his personality. I mean, he was always telling the stories. He always had the sense of humor. You know, even him, like, you know, dressed like, was it
Beethoven?
Beethoven on the piano. It was all Biz, man. The other thing, I don't know if you mistaken House of Pain for Naughty by Nature, but House of Pain was Jump Around.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. It was what it was is the guy had said, thank you for that correction. The guy had put Hammer, Vanilla Ice, House of Pain, Biz, and Crisscross all in together. So I assumed what he was talking about was Jump Around, which to me wasn't a sellout single either. It was just a dope song. And on top of this, House of Pain are white boys. So MTV is cool with playing white boys. So at that time, so it was like, sure, House of Pain is this. I'm sorry, another person had said, what's the difference about, somebody asked me, what's the difference between OPP and You Can't Touch This? And I was like, nigga, like, are you serious? Like, there's a big ass difference between You Can't Touch This and OPP. You know, again, one is a popular song, one is a pop song. To me, they're different entities. You know. Now,
once Naughty came out with Hip Hop Parade, did you feel like they were trying to chase something with that?
I didn't, because again, but remember, for me, my definition of crossover all begins and ends in the 90s with the beat. So that Naughty by Nature beat, I love that Ozzy Brothers sample. The drums was hard. It was a dope ass beat. The hey ho. I kind of just looked at it like Naughty was the anthem people. You know what I'm saying? And that's just what they make. But again, now if they would have came out, you know, just looping, you know, some Tone and Poke type shit, because truth be told, I feel like the track masters would looked at it as like the antichrist of hip hop up until probably like 95. Just like if the track masters did it, to this day, I still stand on that. If the track masters did not produce It Was Written, and it was produced by all the people who did Illmatic, I really truly believe in my heart of hearts, niggas will be like, yo, Nas got 2 5 mic albums back to back. You know, but I feel like it just saying produced by the track masters at that time, it was like, yo, that's the Antichrist. Like, how you gonna get with Tone and Poke? And even though they weren't just looping shit, like, you know what I mean? Like Shootouts, I knew RZA did that shit when I got the advanced copy. I was like, so it's funny because on the flip for me, I gained more respect for the track masters from It Was Written. You know what I mean? Because I was like, yo, these niggas really didn't just loop up a whole bunch of 80s hits that we already knew. So, but I think for people who just saw that name, that they just couldn't get past that name because, again, back to Vegas's point, they were looked at as the sellouts. You had the track masters and Puffy, and then you had Primo, P, Q-Tip digging in the crates, and it was like, nah, we fucking with these niggas with the dusty crates, and y'all just go to the club. And Tone has been very open and honest with this. I go to the club, hear what the DJ threw on in the 80s throwback section, and then we came back to the studio and we made that shit. You know what I mean? So, because we knew, well, if you're dancing to that, then you'll dance to this if we just loop it up for you. And Vague, to your point about the MOP thing, I'm always talking about 4 Alarm Blaze. Because to be honest, that was the quote-unquote sellout track for MOP. They're rhyming over the Rocky thing. They got Jay-Z on it. On paper, this should have lined up to be their biggest hit ever. It's an easy track, everybody knows, it's easily digestible. We got Jay-Z on it, and that shit did nothing. And then, like Vague said, you make Annie up. You just make what the fuck you make, and then now that's what Flex is dropping bombs on. Right. You know what I mean? Or the same thing. I'll never forget, Vague, when I was at 889, they sent the vinyl up for Smoother Hustlers, Hustling in Broken Language. And of course, the A-side was Hustling over the Curtis Mayfield loop of, I think they used Pusha Man, or not Pusha Man, I'm Your Hustler, or whatever the fuck it's called. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It was just, it was just the loop. And they were like, yo, all the labels were like, yo, play the A-side. And we were like, nah, this shit whack. We were like, what's the B-side sound like? We was like, oh shit, play that. And then that's what blew up. So again, you know, it was kind of like in those days, it was like, yo, you gotta do that. But let's do this.
Well,
Tell me
real quick.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry,
I want to ask y'all a question. Did y'all think, like, for them to mention Crisscross, did y'all think that was some crossover shit when, like, Jump came out?
I didn't think Crisscross was crossover. I just thought they was whack. You know what I mean? They were like 2 little kids wearing their clothes backwards. And I get it. The one thing that I've realized with Twitter, and I've said it a million times, it's everybody in the mall at the same time. Like, Vague, when you think about being back in Brooklyn, or Eddie, same thing with you in Brooklyn, or me in Philly, when I know for me, when I'm having these hip hop conversations, I'm having these hip hop conversations with people who are my age. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? It may be 2 years above and maybe 1 year below, but it's relatively still that same age group that's having these conversations. You know, you're not going to find an 18-year-old having a conversation about Naughty by Nature with a fucking 10-year-old. Like, nigga, you over there playing with blocks. I'm outside doing this. So, and what's happening is I'm about to be 49, and I'll be getting these conversations with niggas who's 30, and I'm like, nigga, I could be old enough to be your fucking father. Like, I'm not arguing with you about what was going on, and you wasn't even born yet. You know what I mean? So I understand how, like, an 8-year-old would have loved Crisscross, you know, when they came out. And I'm like, well, cool. I understand that. I need you to understand me that I was 18, and that shit looked corny to me. Niggas wearing shit backwards and just 2 little kids jumping up and down and all that shit. It just looked corny to me. So I don't even think I looked at it as a sellout. And to be honest with you, I don't know if I ever really looked at Hammer as a sellout. I just looked at him as a pop artist because he never came out differently. You know what I mean? Well, it's not like, well, he did.
Originally, when he came out.
With that first album.
Yeah, he was more so like, I mean, he wasn't typical West Coast hip hop, but he was more, you can say he was hip hop. But then later, again, like you said, we Can't Touch This, it was more about the catchiness than his flow and stuff like that, right? It was just more about, you know, say the hook a million times. But with the Crisscross joint, like, my sister was into Crisscross heavy, right? And we're 2 years apart. She's 2 years younger than me. And I don't like. I felt.
What were you gonna say? Man? Did you think Crisscross was crossover?
Who, me?
Yeah.
What?
You know, at the time, I wasn't really thinking about, but they're kids. Like, to me, they were making the kind of hip hop that kids should be making. And I know, and you talk about it, Gil, with the youngsters and some of these other kid groups, but honestly, like, I feel like you have different kids, right? You got kids that, you know, maybe adjacent to the street. I don't want to say the kids were in the street. That would be kind of messed up. But adjacent to it, right? And you know, the way they're trying to produce them or give them a hard edge, right? I don't know if I necessarily like that. I mean, now that I'm a dad, I got an 8-year-old, you know. But Crisscross, right? You know, it's appealing to kids. It's more like entry level hip hop, right? And it's hip hop you don't mind your kids listening to, right? It's like, all right, you're gonna have to like explain, all right, what did this lyric mean? What does that mean? You know what I mean? So it's kids. It's fun. It is what it is. I don't like, they didn't come out as something else and then say, all right, now we're gonna go pop with Jump.
It wasn't like Illegal came out with, you know, Head of Gut or We Gets Busy, and then their next album was Crisscross. You know what I mean?
Right.
Something like that. Vague, what'd you think about Crisscross?
Honestly, I thought it was a kid's thing. Like, my sister was 2 years younger than me, and she was really into them. And you know, by that time, I was like hip hop head, even though I was younger. I liked it, but not enough to like get a whole album type thing. But I will say this: it definitely wasn't the beat, because I think that's what I liked about Jump. I liked the beat, and when you hear Nipsey freestyle over that shit, it takes on a whole nother meaning as a song because of that beat. I'm like, oh yeah, this is some gangster shit on the low. You know, when you hear Nipsey rap over it. But I didn't mind Crisscross. It just, you know, I was out of that kids. When I heard Illegal, I was like, yeah, this is me.
Right. Side note, I don't know if y'all seen Dallas Austin's clip from Questlove Supreme on Illegal, moving in with Suge Knight. Please, by all means, watch that. If you need a good laugh in your day, please watch Dallas talking about Illegal. It's hilarious. Rel Tresvant's in the building. What's going on, brother?
Yeah. I'm not Rel Tresvant today. I'm in a full Dickie suit. My
bad. You came from the State Property Show last week.
Yeah,
he signed to Death Row.
Taking it back. You remember this was our uniform back in the day.
Hell yeah, Philly. Hell yeah. We're talking about the crossover. Tell me this, bro. Like, what does crossover mean to you? Like, when you hear that word or you hear that term, what does it mean to you?
An attempt at more of a mainstream sound and image and all of that. You know what I'm saying? I just remember back in the day, like, it was when you started like having R&B influence tracks to your hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Like, just trying to cross over into making money and doing what's popular is basically the definition I would give it.
All right, no doubt. We're about to jump into the 5 acts who you think have crossed over. The first one I got, I'm gonna go back because somebody had asked me kind of more so like, you know, the history of crossing over in hip hop, and I felt like the first time that I felt or was able to really visualize a crossover is with the Fat Boys. You know what I mean? On their debut album, which is one of my favorite albums by far. I mean, this is just classic to me right there, that first Fat Boys album. And I always tell people, my OG kind of schooled me that this was really a Disco 3 album. And Disco 3 was the name of their crew. You probably can't even see it on Prince Marky D's jacket on the back over here. It said Disco 3, R.I.P. Marky D in the Beatbox Buff. But when they were making that album, it's more, you know, boom bap, it's more hip hop. And I felt like, you know, they came up with the Fat Boys name and kind of, you know, and then before you know it, you had the Bold and Big and Beautiful album, and they had Disorderlies, and, you know, they had the Twist with Chubby Checker, they had Wipeout with the Beach Boys, and I just remember being like, yo, why the fuck are these niggas making songs with Chubby Checker? Like, You know what I mean? And it was like the first time that I remember being a shorty, because I'm probably about 12 years old, and I'm just like, yo, these doing the twist. This ain't these dudes right here that I fell in love with. You know what I mean? So I don't even think I knew at that time, like, oh, this is a crossover, but I just didn't like what they look like. Like, of course I went to see Disorderlies because at the time, you know, you didn't have a lot of hip hop on the big screen. So, you know, I get an opportunity to see my hip hop heroes on the big screen, but it was very slapstickish. It was very Three Stooges. It was like that. And it was just, it didn't feel right because it's like these people are part of my hip hop foundation. And when I say that to people, they're like, damn, OG, them corny niggas. But I'm like, not these niggas, not these. These wasn't no corny niggas. You know what I mean? Like, now, yeah, I get it, the wipe out and all that shit, but not them dudes. But for me, that was the first time I saw it. And I mean, it made me just necessarily stop being a fan. It made me stop buying their music. I mean, I brought this album, and I think their second album was The Fat Boys Are Back. And the bad part about that album is I feel like it was just literally trying to recreate this album. Like, it's like a Human Beatbox Part 2. Like, every song is like a part 2 of everything on this album. So it was like, I feel like I'm listening to the same album twice, and by the time, by the time they got the Big and Beautiful and Wipe Out and the Twist, it just made me stop being a fan. I stopped checking for the Fat Boys. I stopped buying their music. To Rel's point, you're crossing over to get a bigger fan base, but like my man Leon said in the 5 Heartbeats, you know, at the end of the day, the quote is, I mean, once we lose our core audience, we ain't never gonna get them back. And to me, that's essentially what happened with the Fat Boys. They lost their core audience and they never got them back. And, you know, of course, Marky D went on to, you know, produce, and then kind of Cool Rock-Ski and Buff, like they kind of just faded off into the sunset because they never got that audience back because you just went too goddamn far. You know what I mean? So that's the first group that comes to mind for me. Vague, who's one of the first people who you, or not in any order, but who's somebody on your list that you felt crossed over?
Well, really quick, I just wanted to say something about the Fat Boys. I think one thing that's a part of this whole crossover thing is like when you cross over and it doesn't work, or when you cross over and you go too far, and now you're trying to cross back over, because that's kind of happened a lot. And shout out to Marky D. When I was in high school, Swing My Way, that was my shit. Like, I had the single right over there, cassette, play that joint to death. I know it was Father MC, but who cares? Marky D. Yeah. One of mine's is Big Daddy Kane. New Jack Swing was it. And he was trying to go for it earlier because he had the look, kind of had that sex appeal. I mean, if he wasn't Big Daddy Kane, could be an R&B dude because he was wearing suits and all that. But I think he shot that a little too quick because it became a thing after people didn't like him doing it, right. Which is crazy. But it was probably because of who he was before that. And that's, to me, that was a case of maybe not necessarily crossing over to pop, but crossing over to what was popular, which New Jack Swing was the new thing, and some people probably thought it was going to overtake rap at that time because, you know, hip hop had been around for a while. So just
now, Meg, tell me this. Are you talking about on the second album with I Can Do This? Not I Can Do This Right. That was the third album. With I Get the Job Done.
I felt like that was the beginnings of it.
Okay.
And then I felt like with Taste of Chocolate, he went further, and I did a podcast on Taste of Chocolate and Prince of Darkness. Just going back and listening, Taste of Chocolate is not as bad as we remember.
I was gonna say because somebody tweeted at me and he was like, "Yo, fam, I ain't gonna hold you." I think it was the album cover.
It's the cover. Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? That's a good goddamn point. It's that goddamn album cover of him fucking with his chest out with them twists in his head. Like, you know, try to look like you on play. But you're right, the album isn't bad. I think if the cover would have been just him just chilling in LG Projects or something like that with Scoob and Scrap,
right,
it wouldn't have gotten so much slack as it did. But that cover is just, y'all talking about Myron's
cover. You go like Eddie Murphy in Vampire in Brooklyn.
Yeah, that's a horrible cover. But yeah, I just wanted to ask because it was like someone that asked me, when did Kane sell out? Was it Taste of Chocolate or Prince of Darkness? And I was like, well, after what my man said, I'll probably go with the Prince of Darkness. He was full blown.
When you listen to Taste of Chocolate, like you said, it's the cover, it's the title, right? And people think about whatever New Jack Swing or R&B type records there, but it's so much traditional Kane on that album. But when you listen to Prince of Darkness, he's going for it, and it's complete garbage as a result. And like you said with the Fat Boys, even though I don't know why you would have a purple bandana on, he tried to come back on like, yo, I'm back, and nobody was trying to hear it.
Right.
But yeah, Big Daddy Kane to me was one of those attempts to cross over to a new sound that he thought was going to be the sound, and he was just a little bit too early, but it didn't work for him.
What I've always wondered about Kane is, because Kane seemed like, and I don't know how y'all felt with hip hop, Eddie. I know you're a little younger than us, but I always thought in my mind that these dudes were our age. So I'm 15, and I'm thinking Big Daddy Kane may be 16, 17. Like, I think Kane may have been 21 when I was 15. Like, so, and Kane would talk about, he'd ride around in his Volvo listening to fucking the OJs and like listen to old, like, soul music. So I felt like for him, I'm interested to know, like, did the label make you do this, or did you just want to do this yourself? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Kane looked like he was the type of boy who loved getting on Quincy Jones back on the block. Like, yeah, like, this is the people I want to be with. I want to be Pay LaBelle and the people who I listen to. You know what I mean? Because I forgot where I read it, but they were saying, like, yeah, other hip hop niggas driving around listening to hip hop. Kane be listening to the Whispers and, the OJs. Like, he's an old spirit. So, I've always wondered, was this your take on selling out or trying to go that route, or was Cold Chillin', which wasn't even like, I would say like a big label, they were indie, but I've just always wondered whose choice that was, based off of Kane being this old soul.
I think you're right though, because I don't know if it was an interview back then or whatever. I think when he was making his comeback album, he was trying to explain his choices before then. But he was with it, like you said. I got to do a song with Barry White. Right. I got to do a song with Dolomite. Like, right.
Like, these are his heroes. Like, how we're like, yo, I want to do a song with AZ. I want to do a song with. It's kind of like, yo, his heroes was. I want to. Oh shit, I got to do a song with Barry White. Like, mom, Barry White on the album. You know what I mean? I'm in the studio with Quincy Jones and Patti LaBelle singing my hook. Like, So
and
again,
didn't Barry White have a hit at the time? Like, Practice What You Preach?
Yeah. And I mean, just the fact that he was on Q's Back on the Block album, like, that was a huge album. You know what I mean? And I think it was like Kane, Marley Marl, and I forgot, was it Ice-T or somebody else? I think it was 3 MCs. But yeah, so I've just always been intrigued. Like, was Kane just like, nah, B, like, I want to dress up like this. And like you said, I've learned in life, it's all about timing. You know what I mean? You try to crack on this girl at one day, she dish you crack on it another time, now it's your wife. You know what I mean? Like, timing is everything. And it was funny because we was dissing Kane when in the Don't Curse video, like, yo, nigga, you got on a button-up shirt, like, with champagne flute in your hand, and then fast forward 5 years, and there's some skinny nigga on a boat in a button-up shirt with a champagne and the flute in his hand, so the time, like, we wasn't ready,
And the intro to the Ain't No Half Stepping video, when he like this and they playing Raw, that suit kind of shiny.
Right.
That suit is a little shiny. So
yeah. I mean, I think, but you made a great point of reminding people Kane was nasty, but he was wearing suits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, that's Kane is definitely one that was on my list too. Eddie, who you got up on your list, good brother?
All right, man. My first one. It's funny, I can't remember if you or Vegas mentioned it about people crossing over but then trying to cross back over. Mm-hmm. Well, I think this is one of the artists who has been able to do that, is Snoop Dogg. Mm-hmm. Snoop Dogg probably crossed over more time. I can't even remember how many times he damn crossed over, yo. Like, he went from, rocking with Dr. Dre, Deep Cover, being on the Chronic, Doggy Style, 5 Mic Classic. He signed to No Limit. Dude, he dropped records with Pharrell, singing. He did a Snoop Lion reggae record. He did the Sensual Seduction record. I think he did a gospel record.
He did a gospel record. Snoop has done damn near every genre. Like, I'm just waiting for the country album to come in so he can just,
actually
play bingo.
You know what? He doesn't have an album, but he has a song. And how I know, and my father-in-law probably killed me for saying this. So my father-in-law got called in for a studio session one time. My father-in-law was a bass player to, play, so sometimes musicians get gigs like just to play on a record. They don't necessarily know what they're playing for. Like, all right, play this bass line. It's for a joint called My Medicine. And if you listen to it, it's basically a rap country song with Snoop.
There you go. So
it's great. So he
got bingo across the board. He's done every genre. So yeah, that is a good point because you're right. Snoop has been all over. And to be honest with you, I'm absolutely dumbfounded on how Snoop is still relevant. Like, to be honest with you, I'm dumbfounded. Like, he's got TV shows with Martha Stewart. Like, I have no idea how we got here. You know what I mean?
And somehow through it all, he still has his credibility because if someone said, all right, Snoop and Dre getting back together to put out a record, a lot of people are going to be like,
well, that is
I may check that out. Yo, like,
that's actually happening now.
Oh, they're getting back together?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
There we go. So, you would think all that crossing over he did, but people are still going to check for him.
That is true. Well, one of the reasons why I think that may be because I know people who live and die on Doggy Style. Like the way people are with Illmatic, like they live and die with Illmatic. I know a lot of people, and I've met a lot of people just through social media, especially on the West Coast, who really live and die with Doggy Style. So you would think the different ways that Nas has crossed over throughout the years and his flops and this and that people wouldn't check for him. But it didn't matter. Even after Nasir flopped and only me and, Kanye's daughter liked it, niggas are still always ready for another Nas album. Like, no matter how much he drops the ball, Nas just he's able to intrigue us again. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that may be Snoop may be with the West Coast Nas is. Like, no matter how many times we may feel like he drops the ball, it's still open for him. The door is still open for him to redeem himself. I feel like nobody ever wrote Nas off to just say, I never want to hear a Nas song again. It's always like, nope, I'm all ears, and maybe this one, not this one, okay, I'll be all ears next time. So maybe that's what it is. But what were you going to say, Eddie?
I was saying he's shown glimpses that if he wanted to focus himself, like when he came out with that Blue Carpet Treatment joint, and there was a few other albums where he kind of sounded like vintage Snoop. Like he still got the voice, he still could tap into that flow. It's pretty simple for him, man.
Yeah, Snoop's a good pick. Rel, who you got for one of yours?
All right, so I'm a little younger than you, Kill, so you can school me on this one. But I'm gonna say Run DMC. I just remember, what's the joint? What is it? Walk This Way.
Walk This Way. Yes.
And I was just like, I don't know the story behind the making of that joint, but I just was like, what made them do that? I know it wound up being like a huge hit for them, you know what I'm saying? But that's like when you like strip everything away and look at that song, that's like the epitome of a crossover. Like, what? Like, especially at that time, the MTV time where, rock was just, and that's one of the biggest rock bands, ever. And that's during that era. And it was just like weird, like for your pioneers to do that song, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I remember as a kid, I don't like, and that's what I'm saying, like, y'all could school me on it because I was real young when it came out. So I'm like trying to, I don't know the story behind it and all the background stuff of that song, but I just know it was an interesting combination, and the timing of it was like, it seemed like, yo, this will get us further. You know what I'm saying? I could be wrong. Let me know if I'm wrong.
Raising Hell dropped in 86. I'm 12 years old. I'm at my man Cool DJ Frank's house. We're listening to it. You keep in mind that we've heard My Adidas, we've heard Peter Piper. We're like, yo, this shit's incredible. When Walk This Way came on, I'm 49 years old, about to be, and I still remember when I was 12, and we both were like, yo, what the fuck is this? It was like, yo, why is he rhyming like that? You're down, PC, love with your soul undercover, and you talk to your dad, he shake. We was like, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean? So as the story just goes, is, you know, I can't remember, Russell or Rick, one of those two, was like, yo, we want you to do the song with Aerosmith. They didn't want to do it. You know what I mean? But Russell is Russell. You know, Russell, and again, I talk about this with Rich Nichols with the Roots. Like, most hip-hop groups don't have that one manager who just can see the future and can just foresee, you know, from to the name Run DMC. Like DMC has said numerous times, we thought that was the dumbest name in the world, Run DMC. Like, and Russell was like, that's the name. So I think they kind of just leaned on Russell to just, hey, we trust you, we don't want to do it, but you know, this is what it is. And then of course it became, you know, what it became, you know, but I don't even think they knew who Aerosmith was at the time. You know what I mean? So, and again, I can't remember if it was Rick, Russell, the record label, but I do know they didn't want to do it. You know what I'm saying? What you gonna say, Beck?
I was gonna say, and I mean, I learned this stuff later, but I know when I first heard it, it probably was their flow and the fact that Aerosmith was on it that made me feel the same way you guys felt. The beat, not so much, because they always kind of had a little rock in their music early on anyway. But now, like, you know, later learning that Aerosmith was almost out of here. That song saved their career because their album wasn't selling at all. And that pairing with Run DMC kind of brought them back to life. Because that song existed before Run DMC was on it, and it wasn't cover, right? And then they brought Run DMC on, and they kind of made this mesh. And I think the video helped, because the video showed a lot the two worlds colliding. So it didn't say, "Oh, we're trying to rap and we're trying to do rock." It's like, nah, we're hip hop over here, we're rock over here. You know, it almost looks like a battle, but then we just get together, and it just worked because neither kind of compromised, you know, in what they were in that video. And maybe that was a compromise in itself, but Aerosmith was falling off at the time, and Run DMC was actually hot with their records. They were already crossovers without having to cross over because of the type of music. And
that's why I was like a little skeptical, like, because they were like popular. It wasn't like, I don't know, man. They were that's why I was asking, like, what's the backstory? Because they were already pretty popular when it happened, you know what I'm saying? But I just remember when I heard it, even as young as I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like, I didn't expect it, you know what I'm saying? And then later on in their career, when they did was it Pause?
Yeah.
Pause.
Yeah. And here's the funny part. I actually used to like Pause, man.
And I'm about to tell you, I like that song.
Like Pause, man. I like shit. That's when JMJ had the little twists and everything. I was like,
I like the song, but I see what was happening for them to make that. I mean, this is the tail end of their career, and they trying to capture what's popular at the time and trying to hang on, you know what I'm saying? Because I actually like Pause, but I do know when I saw it, I was like, okay, yeah.
There's actually another album where they tried to do that, and Rel, you honestly, you look like that album right now.
Yeah, down with the Kings, yeah.
You just need to walk away and do it. Right in the group, like, you know what I mean? But again, that's the hard part. And I mean, again, 49, I'm able to look back and be like, man, you know, I always tell people, being on a major label is like living with your parents as an adult. Like, you still got to follow their rules, you know, and there's a gift and a curse to that. Maybe they're not making you pay rent. Maybe your mom still makes you food every day, but you got to abide by her rules. If she wants you in at midnight, no matter if you're 48, you got to be in at midnight. You can't have no women spend the night. You got to do that. You could go out and get your own apartment, AKA be an independent artist. And there's some gifts and curse to that. You know what I mean? You can do whatever the fuck you want, but now it all comes out of your pocket. You know what I mean? So the thing that I do realize now is that these record labels were having to tell you, yo, you got to make this kind of music. Or like you said, bro, like, you know, Run DMC's on the end of their career. Okay, this new Jack Swing, Teddy Riley thing is going. We got to try pause. Okay, that's getting played out. This new Onyx bald head shit is out. Okay, everybody shave their heads, get Black Walker wear. We're going to get all the dopest producers to produce for us and try this one last, you know, to keep us relevant out here. So it's hard because, you know, if the label's telling you to do it, I mean, like I said, it's like living with your mom. You know, you signed this contract, they damn near basically own you. So it's like, you want to leave? That's cool. You just got to pay back all the money that you owe us, you know? So you kind of
I love the title track though.
Oh, down the
I still love the title track, man.
I mean, yeah, there was some bangers on there. You know what I mean? There was some definitely bangers on there for me. The next one I got up is Mike Geronimo's second album, Vendetta, when he had Making Moves with Puff.
I forgot.
Yo, I love The Natural. If you follow me, if you listen to Apartment 5B, I love Mike Geronimo's The Natural. One of my favorite albums from the 90s. Shit is Real, Master Your High. I mean, not Master. Why do I keep saying Master Your High? I sampled that for a song called Master Your High. Master IC, like just the joints on there were just bananas. And it was something about that year, 97. It was something about that year because I remember at that time, Vega, I just graduated Morgan. I moved to Atlanta, and I felt like a mere mortal again. You know, hosting Strictly Hip Hop, like you're getting everything free, you get all the vinyl free, you get all the. I had brought a CD in 5 years. You know what I mean? I moved to Atlanta, and I'm a mere mortal again. You know, it's like I got to go buy these CDs. And I never forget, I brought that Mike Geronimo CD. I brought the Cocoa Brothers Rude Awakening CD. I brought Jay-Z's In My Lifetime Volume 1 CD. And it was just like, yo, what the fuck? These are 3 of the hypest albums I'm hyped for. You know, the follow-up to The Shining, the follow-up to Reasonable Doubt, the follow-up to The Natural. And I just felt like, well, minus Jay-Z, this is like a half and half album. But I just was like, damn, it's like a dud. Like, what's going on in 97? Like, everybody is trying something different. So, I mean, the Making Moves with Puff was just horrible. The only thing to me that was even dope on that album, Pete Rock had a joint called Unstoppable. Or I think that was the name of it. That was crazy on that album. But other than that, it was just like, dog, like, yo, what are you doing? He was on TVT, which is an indie. So again, I don't know if TVT was pushing him to do it. I don't know if it was a situation like, yo, I want to do this bad boy shit, but it was just a bad look. And again, I don't think he was able to ever bounce back from that. Like, I can't remember ever hearing Mike Geronimo's name mentioned again. You know what I'm saying? Until that nigga was just on Drink Champs about a year ago. You know what I mean? So, you know, Mike Geronimo, man, that second joint I was really looking forward to because I thought it was going to be a really dope follow-up to The Natural. And it wasn't. So, yeah, good old Mike G out of Queens. Vague, who you got up next?
I was in the club back then, so that Making Moves with Puff, I was like, okay, Mike Geronimo. But then I was like, wait a minute, this the same guy? Because...
And you know why I love that you say that, Vague? I love that you say that because that gives you a different perspective on music. Like, I wasn't in the clubs, so I'm just listening to this music in either a car or in my studio, you know. Right. But I've been to a club and it's been a song I hate, but the scene of the club just makes you love that song because when you hear the song, you think back to that scene. So that plays a huge part in how you would see it if you were in the clubs because you're seeing it.
I think he
from a different perspective
on Drink Champs because I think it was something he wanted to do because he thought it would work. Because when you think about it, right, the Wu-Tang stuff never compromised the Wu, like being on SWV remix and all that. But I felt like at that point people would try a little too hard because everybody talk about the locks and shiny suits.
Right.
I think Mike Geronimo had a shiny suit on also.
Right. And then again, we gotta remember 97 Big is dead. So it's almost like the championship belt is up for grabs. Like, you know what I mean? So who's gonna go do it? You know, it's like, okay, let's all try to follow Big's formula to some extent. You know, which truth be told was really Heavy D's formula if we really want to get to the nitty-gritty of it.
Right.
It's funny, this dude was telling me about Grand Poopa. He was like, Grand Poopa made it cool for fat people to be cool. And I was like, I don't know if I ever looked at Grand Poopa as being fat, but okay, and he was the first person to do R&B songs, like with Mary J's was the 401. He was the first person to do this. And I was like, truth be told, you really should be giving all these props to Heavy D, because everything you have just said all goes back to Dwight Myers, good brother, not Grand Poopa. Trust me, Poopa and 401, what's the 401 was not the first R&B hip hop collab. And that's what I mean about the youth, and it's cool. That's what us OGs have to do. We have to teach, but that's beautiful. You want to give them props to Poopa, you really need to be giving them the Heavy D. You know what I mean? Because he's everything you're giving Poopa props for. Heavy did that way before he did. So, yeah. Babe, what's your next one?
I'm holding down for the R&B people. I got Neo. Now, when Neo first came out, that first album, man, I played it so much, I almost can't listen to it now because it's so embedded in my brain. Then when he came out with the second joint, I was like, okay, this dude might just be my new favorite R&B singer, man. He could sing this, whatever the lead single was with Jay-Z, man. I mean, he just reminded me vocally in a lot of ways of Michael Jackson.
Was the joint with Petey Crack on the first album or the second album?
First
album.
That was my shit.
That was the first. I think that was the first single. That shit was.
It was.
Yeah, that was.
It was. Like he was just on an unbelievable run. Then he came out with the third album. It wasn't as good as the others, but it was good. And then he had the remix to Independent Woman with Jamie Foxx. And when I heard that, I was like, it's a trilogy. Like, this dude might be the new R&B king. And then he came out with another one where it was like, it wasn't that great. It was R&B. And then the nigga just started making dance music. And I could not understand for the life of me why. Like, it wasn't even like dance music took over. Dance music had been around for years. But for some reason, he got a hit in that dance, lane, and then he started making full-on dance albums. I checked out. I had to watch a video of JR telling me he got a new R&B album for me to be like, all right, I'll listen. And that was years later. But I think it was a case of, again, he takes a shot at making maybe this dance record, or maybe the dance remixes of his R&B records got him popping in different clubs and in different rotation on radio stations. So he decides to make a whole album dedicated to that, and he loses his traditional fan base. And by the time he comes back, and even if he comes back with something that sounds good, the glory is gone. Because he had me locked in as a fan with those first 3 albums. I'll take a dud in between just to get another dope album, R&B album. But once he switched up to the dance music, it was kind of like, now all I see is that damn hat and him dancing like, the Black Fred Astaire all the time. And I'm just like, what are you doing, nigga? Like, make that shit we love, So I think he's a good one.
All right, no doubt. Eddie, who you got, bro? You're muted.
My bad. I got Fat Joe, man. My Puerto Rican brethren, man. Yo, he started off as Joey Crack from Digging in the Crates, one of the most respected hip hop crews in hip hop history. And my man, like you say, Kill, man, people think he a Miami rapper now. But I want to say it probably started with the Jealous One Still Envy joint. When he did that joint with Ashanti and Ja Rule. He had something else on there. He had We Thuggin' with Candyman,
Candyman? Oh, Candyman. Okay.
Yeah.
I forgot there used to be a rapper named Candyman.
Yeah, that's how I was laughing.
Yeah. Well, you know what I'm saying? And
I love What's Love. But yeah, I feel where you're going. But that was my shit. I love it.
But then, you know what I mean? But that was the start. But now, and now you fast forward to now, he's hopping on every popular trend. Like him and what's his name? We the best music, like they best friends.
Khaled. Yeah.
Khaled, you know, Fat Joe.
Wasn't
and
he
Khaled
the
were
DJ
best.
for Terror Squad? Isn't that where it all started? Wasn't he was the DJ for
Fat
Terror
Joe
Squad?
DJ.
Oh, word. All right, so that makes sense, man. But yeah, man. I mean, I think especially after Pun passed, like Fat Joe just trend hopping. It's a shame, but I mean, it kept him rubbing, and he was catching hits. He was still catching hits, like the joint, the lean back, obviously, like he be catching hits every now and then, but he hopping on every trend everywhere in between.
I think Khaled helped keep his name alive because I don't know when Khaled just became Khaled. Like, like Khaled seems to be one of the richest people in the world or something. Like, and I'm like, when did this start? Like, but neither, I think like just being down with Khaled, the Terror Squad, like you said, we all the way up. Like, Joe seems to be able to make at least one anthem every 2 years that just kind of holds him down. You know what I mean? Like, and again, I can't hold it. I never thought after hearing FloJo in 1991, that in 2023, this dude is at the NBA All-Star game, this. So again, he's found his lane and God bless him for it, man. God bless him for it. Rel, who you got up next?
I'm gonna go R&B, like vague. And I'm gonna go with this boy. He get on my job. I'm gonna go with John Legend, bro.
Oh, God.
Like,
Yo, here's the funniest part. So I got CDs in here, but I run out of space and I gotta put them in my attic, and I had to make room for a big L joint. And look at who I'm throwing up in the attic. And like you just said it, and it was sitting right here. Like, yo, you go talk your shit, bro. Talk your shit.
yo, when the Get Lifted fire.
Dope.
5 mics to me, man. 5 mics. I love that.
Yo, the vibe, everything was fire. Like, and then he turned into like Barry Manilow or somebody. Like, I don't know what's up with boy, man. Like, was it Ordinary People that did it? Like,
That's the only song that I despise off. That's the only song that I skip over on Get Lifted. I can't do Ordinary People. I just can't take that song.
I don't like that song either. But is it that it got so popular that he just turned into a ballroom singer?
Here's the thing. This album to me isn't that bad. It's just not Get Lifted. Like, that's what I realized. That's what I had to realize with this album. That again, it's like you ask a waiter for Sprite, he gives you water. Nothing wrong with the water. You just had your mouth ready for the Sprite. I had my mouth ready for it. Get Lifted. We in that same vein. Like you said, I call him a Vegas lounge singer on this album. Like, this is just the Vegas lounge singer. Like, you're in Vegas. You're betting at the joint and there's some dude over at the piano randomly singing to you. This was this album. Yeah, which isn't that bad. But by the third album, I was just like, nah, I'm and now I can't stand John Lennon. I'm just like, dog, please go do something with your life. Just stop making music.
That's the crazy thing.
Do a cooking show with your wife. I don't do a reality show. Just stop fucking singing my name. Stop. I beg of you.
It got to the point where I couldn't stand him. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I'm there. Like, when I hear John Legend's voice, I'm like, oh, God, Khaled, please get somebody to sing another hook. Please don't have John Legend. You got a song with Nipsey, and here comes John Legend to fuck it up. Like, yo, this is like the only nigga. You got the phone, you got the Rolodex of life. Get Drake on the goddamn hook. Why do you keep getting John Legend, nigga?
Yo, he like
Nas said, in the mortal words of Nas, he must have naked pictures of God.
He did a whole cover album with the Roots, and I can't listen to that anymore, man.
Yeah, I think I may have listened to that once. What you gonna say, Bag?
Well, it was because I hated John Legend from day one.
Word?
I never heard Get Lifted, but I hated him for the very song I say I skipped. Because I was like, yo, why he singing like that? Like, I just didn't like it. But since y'all love it, should I go back and listen to it? Because I never heard it.
Hell yeah, you should. Yo, bro, put it this way. It's prime Kanye. Like, even just for the beats, like, it's just prime Kanye that's in his bag. You know what I mean? So yeah, and that's the Ordinary People is the only song on there that even sounds like that. Like, everything else, the song with Snoop is dope as hell. Like, I think it's a real dope album. But yeah, that Ordinary People, bro, you knocked it out the park with John Legend. Because like you said, I don't want to see him nowhere. He will make me, he's like Common in a movie. Common will make me turn a movie off. And like John Legend will make me turn a song off. Or if I see featuring John Legend, I don't even bother to even listen. You know what I mean?
Yo, I feel about John Legend how Vague feel about Aaron Neville. Like, I don't want no part. Like,
we ain't going back. We ain't going back.
We're not going back.
We are not going back to Aaron Neville. But yeah, I feel you. I feel you 100%.
You know what joint was actually really dope on that was, and I'm looking at the So High remix with Lauryn Hill.
Yes.
That joint with Lauryn Hill. Oh.
And again, every now and then he could drop a joint. That Green Light joint with 3000 was dope. You know, every now and then he'll pop back up with one song, but it's like, dog, please stop singing.
Because that joint off of the soundtrack to Steve Harvey joint. What is it? Think Like a Man?
I don't even know if I heard that.
John Legend had a dance record off of it. That shit was hot. I was like, damn, am I missing out on John Legend? Because I don't like this nigga. But
I may need to check that because I had no idea about that joint. I had no idea he even had anything on me. The next people I got out of Philadelphia, The Roots. When they did this joint called Don't Say Nothing. And it was around the time when Scott Storch was just popping, and it was this techno type beat, and it ain't even no chorus. It's just like thoughts like, and I was like, and I remember I was on OK Play at the time, and niggas was capping like shit for the niggas. And I'm like, yo, stop. This joint trash. This joint trash.
They were like,
I mean,
they were trying to decipher what he was saying.
Yeah, it wasn't nothing, but it was this like, again, if people haven't heard it, just go listen to it and understand the roots. We're coming off Things Fall Apart. I think this was on a tipping point. It just stuck out like a sore thumb. And it was just like, we've seen what y'all could do with Scott Storch. You got me as Scott Storch. You know what I mean? So to do this and then the chorus is just, oh God, it's just whack. Now let me ask y'all this real quick about the roots. What do you think about songs like You Got Me? And then the next album you come out with, I call the broke You Got Me would break you off. Because it's not necessarily a sellout or a crossover, but it's like, it's how I felt when I heard Once Again. I was like, this shit sounds like a broke ass Check the Rhyme. Like, you know what I mean? And that's what just, I Once Again can never make it on the Best of Tribe mix for me because it just sounds like a broke ass Chuck. You know how like Lorenz Tate got his brothers and he'd be like, you look like a broke ass Lorenz Tate. Oh, that's your little brother. Like, it's like a broke ass version of it. Like, okay, we did this song with Erykah Badu about a girl. We gonna do the same song. We gonna do another song about a girl and have an R&B singer come in and do it. So, but what would y'all call that, Rel?
So, it's with those songs, it's a little difficult for me because I agree with you, but I feel like they were so well done though. Like they were really like the idea of doing it. I saw it. I'm like, okay, yeah, you got me. Now this is the other one, but Break You Off was so well done that it kind of, like it was to me it was a good song. You know what I'm saying? Like I was like, damn, I like this joint, but I saw like what you saw. Like, yo, they about to, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
The thing about that Tribe song, I can't listen to that song once again because it's a beginning of the end type feel for me for that song. Like,
okay,
you feel what I'm saying? Like, I was like, this sounds like, and then that album is kind of just incomplete for you, and that's really the beginning of the end of.
Yeah, it was.
You feel what I'm saying? So
I always say few crimes in life to me is like your parents breaking up. You just don't know that shit. You know, like your parents get divorced. You're like, damn, what happened yesterday? Like, bitch, this shit been going on for 5 years. We broke up 5 years ago. We just waiting for you to graduate high school. Like, I felt like they broke up, and I mean, truth be told, Spike moved to Atlanta. What was the situation? Tip was replacing it with Consequence. That's why Consequence was on the bulk of the album, because it was like, okay, you did. Okay, let me bring in my little cousin. I mean, Fife wasn't even on the Stressed Out, the second single on the album.
Say that. They had to add him when the video came out. When they did the video, they had to add him. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But Eddie, what about you? What do you think about those songs? And I agree with you. I think Break You Off was well done. For me, it's just, it wasn't as dope as You Got Me. So that's why it's kind of like the broke version of that. And once again, it isn't a whack song. It just isn't as dope as Check the Rhyme. And I'm like, we doing the whole You On Tip, You On Point tip? Like, really? Like, at least come up with something new. But that's just me. What about you, Eddie? What do you think of those songs where they try to recreate the exact same thing again?
I like Break You Off. I thought it was a little bit of a different vibe because You Got Me was so mellow that after a while, like, honestly, after a while, like, I didn't really want to listen to it. You know what I mean? Like, it may sound weird to people, but like, I get to You Got Me, I'd be like, I ain't in the mood. Skip.
Yo, it's crazy, bro. I can listen to You Got Me
Don't see us, but we see you.
Like, I love You Got Me.
Listen,
like, I
man.
can just listen to that shit forever.
That's how music is different.
Yeah. I mean, totally. Y'all know that, you know, but it's just so funny because he's like, I can't. I'm like, yo, I could listen to You Got Me just over. I love
the joint. Yeah,
I know what you're saying. It just
but it has such a different vibe from everything on that album.
Right.
It brings you down, and sometimes I'm like, wait.
Well, here's a good
I want to
question.
skip ahead to
hold
Don't
on
See Us, but we see
Let
you.
me say this. So, did y'all feel like You Got Me was a sellout?
No.
Okay.
No. Because
Eddie, I hear exactly what you're saying. It doesn't sound anything like anything else on Till, you know, Things Fall Apart.
If I didn't get Silent Treatment and the Matic, then I would have thought it was a sellout.
Exactly.
It was giving you those on every album.
Girl songs. They always had a girl song.
Yeah,
exactly. But I think, you know, and I'll get to it once again, but real quick, on Phrenology, the crossover song, I think, is that Cody Chestnut song, The Seed.
The Seed, yeah.
The Seed was their crossover because that put them in a whole different audience space.
That's a good point, too. What did you think about The Seed? Did you feel like that was crossover?
I don't even know what that is. Like what?
The joint with Cody Chestnut. I push my seed in her bush for life. It's gonna work because I'm pushing it right. Yeah. I'm shocked you ever heard those videos was everywhere. Like, that video was on like that.
And it's funny because you say that, and because it's a very walk this way type flow that Thought has on there too.
Yeah, he was basically like sing rapping. Like he was.
But he's like songs like something
melodic.
Up to 9 months ago. We getting that she don't know. She want neo soul because hip hop is told she don't want no rock and roll. Everything rolls on. I'm a hot gun, the son of a gun. Everything don't rock and roll. Everything's bad. Yeah, it's like a different. It's like a different. So yeah, I totally see what you're saying with that.
I think that was more of a crossover record. Yeah. I mean, regarding Tribe and once again,
but it's funny because it's a crossover, but it's going in a different direction. It wasn't to me going for like Bad Boy lane or urban radio play. It was almost going for rock, like more of a.
I feel like what the Roots have done with all their albums, they try to open themselves up to a different fan base, and that's why the Roots have so many different types of fan base.
Here's the wild part though. How are you on Jimmy Fallon? You fuckers still can't go gold. Like, I don't understand how you're on late night television. Key point to what you just said, they've opened themselves up to 50 million different genres, but they can't sell 500,000 records, but you have over 5 million viewers every night watching you, babe.
Because everybody liked the Black Thought in that Funk Flex freestyle, and not the nigga that got the silk ponchos with the Minotaur shoes on his feet. Like, stop it.
Yo, you know what used to piss me off about that? They don't even call him Black Thor on the show. He's Tariq. Jimmy, if you ever paid attention, Jimmy has never called him Black Thor. He's like, Tariq, what are you doing this weekend? Hey, Tariq, what's going on? Tariq, what's going on? And it was just funny because it's just like, right, he's still Questlove, but it's like he's Tariq. And I had to stop watching Jimmy Fallon. When they first got on, I was like, DVR every night, the Roots, I'm supporting. But I just felt like it almost felt like a minstrel act, and I don't mean that in no disrespectful way to anybody out there watching movies. But when it'd be like, "Hey, Black Thought, rhyme about fucking Mario Brothers," and he busts the rhyme, it's like, damn, this just feels like. And again, I get it. You know, I'm happy for you. Y'all got your money. You paved the way, but for me, it just was like, it's like, hey, dance, little nigga, do a dance real quick. Like, you know, it felt like that.
In Spike Lee joint,
right?
Very slept on movie.
And that's what it felt like, because I'm like, yo, why is this boy like rhyming about Mario Brothers or like freestyling about with the word? Hey, everybody, Tariq can rap really good, y'all. Hey, just give him a word. Watch, go, Tariq, go. And it's like, no, don't go, Tariq. No, don't go. I get it. And again, that's just me. I'm in the no hate, super proud of the Roots. Y'all already fucking know me. Don't say shit to me about the Roots until you got all the albums like I do and all 5 copies of Things Fall Apart. So don't say shit. Love them, support them. But got every quest, love them. Even guys cookbook. I don't cook. Still brought. So I support everything that they do because I feel like they've done so much for my city. Unless you've done the same, please shut the fuck up and leave me alone. Sorry, yeah, who you gonna say?
I was gonna say regarding like the other part of your question regarding Once Again, I rock with Once Again. I never really had a problem with it. Like I just like the joint. I mean, I could see what they were doing. I feel like it's more of like a callback than it is trying to recreate it. I don't know. And I know everyone has a different opinion. That's just my opinion on it. But
and I mean, it could always just at the
I can see it both ways. Yeah.
It could be the label. Like, hey, You Got Me was our biggest hit. We need another girl song, y'all. Let's go. Tariq, get to it. Write another girl song. So that could be it. Vague, what do you think? What do you call that anything? Is there a name for that where you kind of just try to redo what your last big song was again?
I think what Rel said, when I heard You Got Me, I didn't think of, Sellout because of, their prior records that kind of did the same thing, that kind of had the same vibe. I think it's easier for me to accept them doing different things because they're a band. And I kind of like that about them because not necessarily liking all the records, but the band element to me just brings a different dynamic to what they do musically. But I didn't like the break you off joint. I felt like that was a little too much. That felt more forced, whereas You Got Me felt organic and closer to at least what I knew of them as a hip hop band. And once again, I did not like that because I'm a huge Tribe fan and I love Check the Rhyme. I didn't think they needed a follow-up. Check the Rhyme ain't had no goddamn singing on it like that. It was just clear to me that everybody's dancing, shiny suits. They're trying to do their version, but it just sound corny. That wasn't Tribe to me. Like Find My Way was Tribe. Like when I heard that, I was like, this is Tribe. They don't have to resort to that. They could do Tribe and people love it, So yeah, I think like we said earlier with Biz, right? Just a Friend was organic. It was Biz.
What was the follow-up to what was the next big joint that he did? Do you remember?
He used Ain't No Stopping Us Now as
yeah.
And that was the difference. Like you said earlier, right? Just a Friend, it was pure boom bap with them drums. He just happened to be singing a hook. But that, I can't remember, and I loved it too. Don't get it twisted. Right. I bought the single, and I was like, hey, I kind of like this. But it was clearly a way for him to capitalize off people liking the fact that he sings or tries to sing. But he had a beat that, and this was before Bad Boy. He had a beat that was just Ain't No Stopping Us Now. So
right. I feel you. Who was next up on your list, man? Oh, you know what? One thing with Break You Off. I don't know if y'all heard the story how they had 20 different singers come in to break you off. And something kept happening every time. I got this Roots CD that's down here. It is these joints right here, these homegrown joints. And Quest tells the story of they went through 12 R&B singers. And it's kind of cool because the way he tells the story is he doesn't tell you who the singers are, but he gives you hints. So you kind of have to figure out like who these people are that could have made the cut, but then they ended up going with music. But there is a D'Angelo version of Break You Off that's out there too. So they got the D'Angelo one. And here's the crazy part about it. I almost like the music one better. Like sometimes I think some people just sing hooks better. You know what I mean? Like I think Ashanti's a better hook singer than probably some of our best singers out here. Like, you know, she just sings a hook good. She's not a great singer, but she just can sing a good hook. So of course I think D'Angelo's a much fucking better artist than music, but I felt like music's version actually is kind of better. What did y'all like, Erica or Jill's version that you got better?
I didn't have a preference, to be honest. I thought they were both cool. Maybe I lean a little bit more towards Jill because of Erica's distinctive voice made me pay attention to Erica.
Right.
That Jill kind of fit with the Roots.
Yeah, the Roots Come Alive version though. The one of the Roots Come Alive with Jill Scott singing. That one.
Meg, I remember being in Baltimore '92 being like, "Oh, this is Erykah Badu featuring the Roots." That is how they were selling it on the radio. Where you got it wasn't even the Roots; it was Erykah Badu featuring the Roots. But again, hey, you got to strike when the iron's hot. Like, you know, I've always wondered because I don't think nobody's ever talked about like was Jill pissed about that? Because there's so much controversy with that song. Eve was pissed that she didn't get a Grammy. You know, Jill pissed because she wrote it and did it. And, you know, they put Erica, because I was watching this thing with Scott Storch just last week about making it, and he was saying he made that song for Jill Scott. It was Jill Scott's song. And then Amir now I'm fucking doing Jimmy Fallon. Quest came up to the fucking, Quest came into the studio next door and was like, oh, I gotta have that. You know what I mean? And Jill was on the hook, but then by the time the label got to it, you know, they put Erica on it. So it's a lot of controversy behind that song that I'm like, I've always wondered, like, was Jill pissed? Like, y'all motherfuckers. Like, or was she just like, hey, part of the game, I got paid, give me my Grammy for my writing credit and call it a day. And, you know, she's going on to have her incredible career too. So, sorry about that. Babe, what were you gonna say? Who's up next for you?
I got Jay-Z. I feel like, I think you said it earlier, in my lifetime, Volume 1, even though there's some show enough greatest Jay-Z bars, greatest Jay-Z songs, boom bap on there, he was clearly and admittedly trying to cross over by using the Bad Boy formula. And I think he figured it out on Hard Knock Life that what people wanted from him wasn't Jay-Z doing a Biggie. They wanted Ain't No Nigga, which felt more like Jay-Z's style of crossover records or whatever. So he never really compromised, because he never really compromised when it came to lyrics. Right. But Sunshine with Babyface,
man, Foxy Brown, like just this. But The City Is Mine with Blackstreet was just killed. Just killed.
The worst song is I Know What Girls Like, bro. That song, that song is terrific.
But the best thing about The City Is Mine is the B-side, which was 1,000,001 Questions.
Oh, that was the B-side. I never even saw the 12. I just never even
1,000,001 Questions was the B-side. 1,000,001 Questions was dope as hell.
Greg, here's a question: did you think Ain't No Nigga was a sellout?
Nope.
Okay.
That was EPMDB, and they was that hook is just dirty, and you know their verses were grimy too. Because that's the thing with Jay-Z, even with I Know What Girls Like I love his bars on there though. It's just that, you know, why did he, like, you could see the strategy on all these different records of, oh, everybody like that, but Ain't No Nigga was different to me because I always loved that beat. So
it's funny because I didn't think it was a sellout, but I don't know what the word is for this. Like, I hated DMX at first because I'm like, when niggas was playing Me Get At Me, dog, I'm like, let's get off the Bozak by EPMD. Like, that's where we at in hip hop. We just using the same beat over again. So for me being a producer, I'm just like, oh, fuck that shit, man. You know, so when I hear that, I'm like, yo, this motherfucker EPMD, like, oh, get the fuck out of here. Now, I mean, of course I loved it because it was everywhere. But at first, like, I won't hold you, when I listen to Reasonable Doubt, I usually skip that joint. You know what I mean? Just because, again, the producer in me was like, you don't just use somebody else's beat. You just don't do that. without doing something different to it. Now with Jay, do you think do you feel like, are there other times in his career that he's sold out or, straddled the fence?
I think his crossover record was "Can I Get Her," and I did not like that record. I didn't like.
That's a good point. That's a good point. My man,
yeah.
I met up with my man in Philly. He was a rep for Def Jam. He was like, "Yo, here's new Jay-Z," and I went home like, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" It was the Walters Way moment. It was like, "Yo, what is this beat? Why did the beat sound like this?"
I know you was pissed,
bro. I was like, David Buss is down on Delaware Ave. I'm all the way on. I'm on the expressway. I'm like getting home. I'm like, still had my mom's Corolla. Ain't have no CD player in it. So I'm like, I got home with the CD. I was like, yo, what the fuck is the beat? What? And again, especially if the last thing you heard from this nigga was like 22 twos or, like fucking friend or foe and you next here. It's kind of like how I say about the Roots. The last thing you heard from them was Silent Treatments, then the next thing was Clones. It's like, whoa, what the fuck happened to these niggas? Like, that's not you in the picture, but in a good way for me at least. Yeah. But with Jay, it was the flip. I was like, can I get a what for my niggas? I was like, yeah. And then Ja Rule came in. I'm like, who the fuck is this nigga? Like, it just
sounded like Cookie Monster.
It felt like Golden Corral on like a Saturday night. And there's too many people, and the food just sucks. It's like, why are we too many people in the kitchen? It felt like a bad day at Golden Corral.
Because the story behind that song. That was Ja Rule's song.
Yeah.
Can I know that? Yeah, Can I Get It was his song. That
it sounded like a Ja Rule song
that he let Jay have, and then he was featured on it. So
wow. I mean, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. All right, Eddie, who you got up next, bro?
All right, Vegas, close your ears. Ice Cube, man. From NWA, Straight Outta Compton, and America's Most and Death Certificate, and like him doing what was that shit he did, the Bop Gun with George Clinton. Oh my god, yo. And I'm not sure if he had another blatant sellout track before that. That's the one that's sticking out of my mind right now. But then
I got one for you. We Be Clubbing.
We be clubbing. But then the like then the West Side Connection stuff, like, dude, and I think it's not just sound wise, and it's also the dumbing down of the lyrics. You know what I mean? Because I think he gets pigeonholed as a gangster rapper, but for a lot of these artists that people say is conscious, Ice Cube was a conscious rapper. Like, you listen to his lyrics, you know what I mean? He was the conscious rapper. So I feel like him dumbing down and then his sound changing. Yeah, because
didn't he have that joint, you can do it, put your back into it? I was like,
yeah, I was checked out, and everybody knows I love.
I was about to say, Eddie, you telling Vegas to close his ear, nigga. You need to tell Round to close. He the nigga who's gonna be at your locker tomorrow.
Right.
But that's what I like about this podcast is although that's somebody, one of your favorites, real is real, and I was checked out by Put Your Back Into It and all that.
Yeah, man.
Yo, I forgot that was even Cube, dog. The funny thing, I just remember that song from that damn movie. What was that movie about the white girl and the dancing nigga? She moved like her mom died in an accident. She moved in.
Say the Last
Dance? Yeah, that's it, with Julia Stiles, I think. Like, I think it's in that movie in like one of the club scenes. Like, that's it. But I never even realized that was Cube. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
If you listen to Stay True to the Game and then listen to that, it's like, is this even the same person? You know what I'm saying? Subject matter and everything. So yeah, I agree with that.
Bro, who you got up next?
I'm gonna go with Mase and Betha. Mase. Yep. And here's why. I remember, like, we was in the mixtapes real heavy. Y'all remember the freestyle oh, here's bad boy this, bad boy that. That freestyle, Mase killed that. Like on some like spitting. Of course, everybody knows he was doing the Murder Mase stuff, but he went completely like the shiny suit and all that. He went completely and didn't look back. You know what I'm saying? He went to that side and didn't look back, and then it helped him initially, you know, because his Harlem World sold really well. He was really popular, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, it didn't last. You know what I mean? But I think he was the first guy that I was like, I heard like as a street rapper really go commercial. Like before they did it with Fab and what happened with Cash. Because
that's a good point. I never heard Murder Mase. Like the first time I ever heard Mase was Feel So Good. Like,
right. Yeah. So he had. So I was heavy in the mixtapes. He was on Funk Flex. It was him and Puff on Funk Flex. He had a freestyle. It was crazy. He had a couple other freestyles on Clue. So I'm like, this Mase dude. Like I heard him, and then I saw the 112 joint. Where he was on the that's when I first saw him visually, and then it was just downhill from there. It was just like it was Mase, like the Mase that we got to see. You know what I'm saying? Like I know, like maybe Vague, somebody that was in New York, they probably heard Murder Mase a little bit more than I did, but I would hear him on the mixtapes a lot, and then he just went completely to what the Mase that we know now. You know what I'm saying?
Question, because somebody brought, I think Easy Money has said this. He had asked me, he had said something to the extent of, you know, or maybe it wasn't him. Somebody has said, like, you know, Kill, we got to put some of the onus on the artist too. Like, you know, if you signed this deal, you had to know what was coming. And I'm like, duly noted, but not all the time, because here's this new word that just got invented 2 minutes ago called a lie. And record labels are notorious for fucking lying to you. So it could have been like, I've seen niggas get married and they wife, yeah, rap, keep rapping. They married, nigga, no more studio time for you, nigga. Like, nigga, ain't no husband of mine coming in here no 2 a.m. selling your rap dreams. It's like, wait a second, you told me you was down and that's why I married. So they have been labels that's like, no, I thought you was gonna let me do me. And you know, and I get it, a lot of labels. Me and Vague have dealt with labels just from doing strictly hip hop, and you find people leave. You know, one day you're connected, you know, Sony ain't your same connect no more. So when you hear those horror stories too, the A&R got fired, the A&R who signed you is no longer the A&R who's there, so the new A&R don't believe in your vision and all those things. But do you think with somebody like Mase, is it like, okay, I'm going to have to, like, you know, can Mase come back now and be like, I didn't want to sell out. You know, I had no idea. Puffy told me we was gonna, like, really, like with Bad Boy, like, so what do y'all think? Like, do you think, you know, the onus, I guess what percentage would you say? Like, just looking at the industry, it's a fucked up industry, niggas lie. Do you think a lot of these rappers who sign these deals, like, do you think Cassidy signed with Swiss thinking he was gonna be able to make some street shit, like on some DMX shit? Because I was totally thrown when Hotel and Gets No Better came out. Like, I was like, when I heard Hotel, and I was like, all right, y'all, come on. Everybody got to do the first single. I remember Ghostface, I used to give Ghostface a pass, because Ghostface would have a single with Carl Thompson. And it's like, oh, yeah, but that's just for the radio. Now, the rest of the album's going to be crazy. So it's like, Cassidy was like, oh, okay, Hotel, yeah, this is a bad look, this is a horrible look. But wait till next single. Then Gets No Better came up, and it was just like, fuck me. Like, yo, y'all just are killing me. And it wasn't until I'm a Hustler came out with Split Personality, where it's kind of like we got, was that the second? No, the first album was Split Personality. Second album was I'm a Hustler. That was the name of the album. I felt like, okay, this is more Cassidy, which, and it's probably his biggest hit, is I'm a Hustler. It's not Hotel. You know what I mean? I think more people go crazy for if you throw on I'm a Hustler than if you throw on Hotel, especially because of Candyman. But what you going to say, Bag?
I was going to say, since I'm dressed like a Harlem nigga today, you think it's Miami Yankees hat. With Mase, yeah, because I think Puff saw a vision with him because of the way he looked, right? His smile, and what he could do with him, and it worked, right? I think Mase was with it, right? Because for the most part, dudes may not like it, and it depends on who you are, because Biggie didn't like it. but you want to make money and you don't want to go back to what you were, and, and maybe you didn't have no future where you could see money in the future, or that didn't involve going to jail or dying or whatever. So I think for a lot of them it was like, okay, I could do that. For Mase though, it was such a crazy turn, because he still sound the same, like maybe less mumbling with it, but he still sound the same, but he was nice, right? Like he had bars, and every now and again he would show glimpses, like this one unreleased joint that has the same beat as Uptown. It's not Uptown Anthem. What's the joint Peter Guns and Lord Tariq?
Deja Vu joint.
Deja Vu, right? Bad Boy got an unreleased joint over that beat. Mace's verse is probably the best verse on there, because there's some displaying the bars and shit, but I think for the most part, most rappers, it depends. You like Mike Geronimo, maybe you trying to, get some money. You trying not to go back to what was, especially now that people know you. So you're willing to do things, and depending on your situation, it depends on what the extreme is. Do they want you to dumb down your lyrics, or can you maintain that and just have a beat that does it for everybody? Because like you said, Kill, sometimes it's just the beat that makes it a hit, and upbeat and hook,
I think the thing with Mase that is hard to give him a pass, like, because we know Bad Boy had a formula, like Biggie kind of he benefited from that formula. He still gave us the street gutter stuff, but he gave us the Bad Boy stuff, the More Money, More Problems and stuff like that, right? The locks as well. But Mase, not only he did the formula, man, he was dancing with Puff. He was dancing and everything, man. Like he went full in, like jumped straight into the pool, everything, man. Like you thought him and Puffy were best friends, man.
Here's the thing that I can't, and I'm never gonna give a pass to Mase of all people. But I just wonder if it's one of those things where, like, you get some good ass. Like, and it's just like, yo, you know what I mean? Like, not like they was fucking, not like that, but I'm saying for that. Like, it's just like on some shit like, yo, I like this lifestyle. Like, yo, I'm on a private jet. Like, yo, I ain't never been on no fucking. You'd be shocked. Like, we send our kids to camps all over for the summertime, Wyoming, New York, so they get on planes. The average black kid in the hood ain't never been on no airplane. You know what I mean? So if you're getting on not only a plane, but a private plane, and here's a Rolex, and here's this, and here's that, and here's a Benz, here's a, you know what I mean? Like, it's almost like, kind of getting ass for the first time. It's like, yo, I like this. Like, yo, this chick ain't that nice, but yo, I want to keep smashing, because, it's like the benefits of it. Like, yo, you smashing such and such, like, word, like, yo, she a bitch in real life, but I'll deal with that because of all the fringe benefits that come with it. So at the same time, I can't get mad at a kid who's never had shit. Like, I think Master P or one of them down south niggas said, and it was like, niggas be like, yo, we wasting money. Yo, nigga, I came from nothing. I didn't have anything. So now that I have money, yeah, I do want to buy 3 cars. I do want to buy 3. Like, I do, and I'm like, makes perfect sense. Like, you don't have, so you do. I know for me, I buy so much of this shit because I couldn't afford this shit when I was a kid. So it's like, you know what? I'm going back in time and I'm buying all the motherfucking Jordans I couldn't afford when I was a kid, and I'm buying them now that I can afford them. You know what I mean? So I kind of get it. So not giving Mase a pass, but also understanding that, rocking with Puff comes a lot of shit. Comes a lot of women. Comes a lot of money. Comes a lot of, a lot of exposure that you're just a kid from the hood isn't used to getting on the daily basis. What are you gonna say back?
And also, I think people need to keep in mind that, what Mase was, I mean, he still is, even when he was battling Cameron not that long ago, he was displaying that skill, that murder Mase skill. So it wasn't a wash compared to Cameron, but the thing is like people like certain shit. Like when Nas did his crossover shit and he started dressing a little bit differently, that shit wasn't foreign to me, because Will and all them niggas, they love wearing Bally's and all that shit. It wasn't all this hip hop shit. That was a product of the time. where it became the boom bap and, you know, fatigues and shit like that, because I was the same way, right? Like, I like partying, I like dancing and shit. Maybe there's a middle ground where I could still display skill, but it doesn't mean I don't like this, you know, Cool in the Gang track. I love that fucking song. You know what I'm saying? If I could put my bars to it and get out of the hood, I might be cool with it. You know what I'm saying? Especially if I know I can still spit. So I think sometimes it depends on the individuals. You know, some people are just out of place, like we said earlier. Annie Up was a hit, but in the video, MOP looked uncomfortable than a motherfucker. Like, this is just not what they do. Like, yo, we're robbing people. Why are we standing in the club? Like, we don't want to be here. So I don't know. It depends on the individual, like you said.
Next person I'm gonna go with is I'm gonna do two, so we could kind of get to the next part. I got Big because Big didn't want to do Juicy. You know what I mean? And I always say, for all the hell that we give Puff, without Puff, Big isn't who the Big that we know and love. Because I feel like Big is an MC. He would have just been another Big L. He would have been this ill nigga, partying bullshit, warning, you know. But we wouldn't have known him to be who he is without the One More Chance remix, you know, without the Juicy, without all those joints. But I think, again, Nas, Jay, everybody was trying to follow Big's formula, because the second you'd be like, oh, this nigga rhymed over Juicy, you hear Warning. Or the second you'd be like, oh, he's doing this, you hear Unbelievable. You know what I mean? Even the One More Chance remix, he also has the hip hop remix that I love. So it's like he always gave you both. It was like, and I was fine with that. I've always said, dog, I get it. Get your money over there, Jay. Do what you do, but can you throw us a mixtape? Like, do us a Fab Soul tape or something like that. Like, at least feed the streets. That's all I'm saying. I get it. Get your money, but feed the streets. That's why I fuck with Fab, because it's like, yo, I know you get your money with these R&B remixes. Just give us boom bappers, something over here to fuck with. You know what I'm saying? So then Big, and then my last one was, I kind of looked at this as like a sellout, and I don't know if it was because they were women, it didn't hit as hard, but Salt and Pepper, when I heard Shake Your Thing, you know what I mean? Like, it was, you know, I get it, it was still go-go-ish, like, you know, my mic sounds nice, but it was just more radio go-go-ish than my mic sound nice. And then having EU on it, you know what I mean? So, and I think even on that second album, Assault with a Deadly Pepper, they had some joints on there. Let the Rhythm Run was on there. That joint Everybody Get Up was on there, which was hard. People forget. Buckshot rhymed over that joint for Funk Flex joint, you know, which was hard as shit too. I think by that third album, Black's Magic, which I actually liked some songs off. I liked Expression, you know, but that's when Talk Like Sex came out. That's when Shoop was out. And for me, again, my Salt and Pepper is my mic sound nice, chick on the side, I desire. And by the time we got to Shoop, I'm like, this is not my Salt and Pepper. You know what I mean? This is not the shorties that I grew up rocking with. You know what I mean? So, yeah, those are my last two. Vay, who are your last two?
My last two are, hold up, I didn't have it out. One where it kind of worked, and then she did it in a different way. To me, it didn't work, but I think it did work. Well, one worked in a way I was cool with, the other worked in a way I wasn't feeling. Mary J. Blige, when she had Share My World album, it was a totally different look from the What's the 411 in My Life, but I liked it, you know, because I was like, damn, this fits. You know, it's not the hip hop on every track, but it fits, and some of the hip hop joints were still there. Where it didn't work to me, but it worked for her, was the joint, the dancery joint with Dre. I fucking hate that song. I hate that album. I hate the album cover.
What album was that?
Damn, what's the name of it? Let me look real quick. I have it.
I hate that song so much.
Because like you said, Kill with the Roots. I can shit on certain Mary J. Blige albums, but I don't know. Even if they're
right.
Right. You know, because I'm a fan. Damn, what was the name of that joint? No More Drama. That's the name of it.
That's the one where she had the song over the Young and the Restless beat too.
Oh shit, yeah, that was.
Yeah, you right. That was a bad album. I was like, yo, is this chick singing over the fucking Young and the Restless?
Right, that was bad. Yeah, I was just like too far. You going way too far. Rainy Days, and that's what he was singing like the Cookie Monster on that joint. Even though I kind of like his part, I'm not even gonna lie.
Right.
And the other one I had is J. Cole. And with J. Cole, I was on him when he was on mixtapes. So I was like, yo, this dude is nice. He can spit. You know, that Matic shit hooked me in. As soon as I heard that joint, I was like, oh shit, this shit crazy. His debut came out and he's singing Gloria Estefan on hooks and shit. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, what? You want to, I don't get mad now. But back then, I used to get physically mad when that shit came on the radio. Because I'm like, no one could
I got to hear this song. I got to hear this. Because my first intro to J. Cole was
you know what they think Gloria Estefan is Paula Abdul. Because the nigga like, straight up now tell me, like, nigga, why you singing that?
Oh, I got to hear this.
He sure did. He sure did.
I got to hear this.
Sure did.
I forgot about that, but he did.
I forgot about, he sure did.
I was just disappointed as a fan of him on mixtapes. Now, he made up for it when Born Sinner came out. And then obviously, since then, he's been good money. But to me, that was a product of a time where there was just this crop of new MCs like Kendrick and artists like Drake and Wale and Meek, and everybody had a hit. Everybody had their own kind of hit. And I don't know if it was because he was light skinned or what. They were like, yeah, Drake is getting busy. You need to add some of that. And he just has this history of singing on hooks where I'm like, does somebody like that shit? I mean, he don't do it as much now, but it used to drive me crazy. And I think it was because, I was so enamored by him just as an MC. And I didn't want him to do that necessarily, but there had to be a better balance than him because it wasn't even like he was saying. So
the other thing he does a lot, even on Born Sinner, which I love that album, but he does something on there that Kill mentioned, which is
Jack's
rapping
beats.
on classic. He raps over classic hip hop beats.
Yeah,
like he did that I think twice on Born Sinner.
Yeah, he did that. Shit
even
over
though the end
Outkast
product,
joint, and he did that joint over the fucking electric relaxation joint.
yeah.
right? Exactly.
Yeah. All right, Eddie, who's your last two?
All right. I'm going. I'll start with Common. Right. So I feel like his run from Resurrection to like Water for Chocolate, flawless, or as flawless of a stretch as you get. And I don't even call that that Electric Circus. I don't even say that was a crossover attempt. I feel like
that nigga was pussy whip. That nigga was just pussy whip. That's all.
That and that was a whole So Koreans trying to get too artistic, So that was whack, but it was something else, right? And certain songs are growing on me on that album, but that was something else. Where I think he did the two Kanye albums, which was a return to form. I like both of them joints. They did Universal Mind Control.
Oh, yeah.
To me, that's his worst album. Like, he was working with Pharrell. It was just...
It's so bad. I've heard it so bad. I've never even heard it. I didn't even bother to
You don't
listen.
want to hear it.
I didn't even listen to it.
Nope. You don't want to hear that one.
He was doing electronic. He had this joint with
He's
CeeLo that
Pharrell
was just...
produced it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Common don't know how to rap over the joint.
He cannot rap.
Okay.
Common got corny. Like his bars were mad corny, cheesy.
Yeah.
Like he had this bar where he says, "I seen her ass crack a smile." I was like, "What?"
That's a
God.
Yeah. I think after that it's been like, Common's dropped some stuff like I'm trying to remember, the Nobody Smiling joint has some joints, right? He's had some here and there, but since then he hasn't dropped like a 5 mic album. Shoot, I don't even know if he's...
Did he sell out or did he just get corny? Like, was that universal mind control? Like, can you see a marketing executive say, okay, we're gonna push it in this direction? So what did he actually? Because see, I don't know if Common sold out, or I just think the nigga got corny. I thought he lost a step. It's kind of like Iverson in Denver, or Iverson in Detroit, where you ain't as fast as you used to be. So
Right.
I always just looked at like Common kind of lost a step. But do you feel like the universal mind control was like, no, that was a sellout? Like he was trying to get, like Vegas said about Neil, like, oh, he was trying to get to dance the electro world with this album or something like that.
Yeah, man. I think he thought that, like, the lead single, I think he thought that was going to be a club banger. I think he was trying to make a club banger. Like, you hear it, it sounds like a blatant attempt for a club banger, and I hadn't heard it in the club at all.
Okay.
I got one thing to add to that. When I heard the single and before it came out, I read an interview he did, and he said that he wanted to make an album to make club joints because every time he went to the club, they were playing everybody else's music, and he didn't have anything in his career that would pop up. In the
Right,
mix.
I remember that. Yeah.
Right. So that was his attempt at making the, making club records, and it didn't work. Now the corny part, I think he became corny when a nigga with no voice fucked your girl. I mean, and you were celibate. We're talking about the DLC, because that timing was like, wait a minute, she was with, okay.
Nigga,
So
you ain't even got a hoodie on tonight, and you.
I thought
This
this
nigga
was
just
all
said
known
a
now.
nigga-
I thought this was
No, it was, but you said a nigga with no voice. Like you could have been like another rap nigga. That was a hoodie Vegas line,
I'm,
right?
I'm from Brooklyn, man. That's a L, man. If it's
I
like,
understand,
oh,
I
so
understand,
you like-
bro. I understand. I
you
always
like
say the
money,
difference
you like
between
money.
Common. I always say the difference between Common 3000 hit it and got better. Com didn't and got worse.
Yeah.
So
he didn't hit it. He was celibate, remember?
yeah, nah, that's what I'm saying. He didn't hit. That's your mistake, bro.
Oh,
That's your
look,
mistake.
not to pile on Common, but I knew it was over when, I don't remember what award show it was, and he was with, like Kill said, his crochet hats and shit. With the song, what's the song they got together that was dope from Brown Sugar?
Oh, the joint off the Brown Sugar.
Love of my life.
Love of my
Love
life.
of My
Yeah.
Life, right? So they're performing that, and I'm looking at Common like, look at this nigga, like he was shuffling and shit. But Erica, the way she looked, she was looking like this nigga's corny, and I was like, I'm about to go down, and it
Right.
did. Like
Yeah.
DOC just was like, that nigga out of here. Like,
Yeah, I always tell people, you get with a shorty, you get with somebody who's opposite than you, one of y'all gonna change. Like you a hood nigga and you get with a peace chick, one of y'all either she gonna start robbing niggas or you gonna start, blowing incense. Like one of you two niggas is gonna change. And hey, Erica told you, man, don't fall in love with me. Don't do it. So you got a comment, who else, Eddie?
Yeah, my last one would be Q-Tip. When he went from a Tribe Called Quest making classic albums and Amplified, and I'll be real, I like Amplified. I don't think it's a 5 Mic classic or anything, but I like joints on Amplified. But it was a blatant crossover attempt, and you can't tell me it wasn't. Like, he was trying to be a sex symbol. He was trying to get club bangers. He was trying to do all those things. Coming from Tribe,
Do me a favor, hold on to that, because that's one of my questions. So hold on to that. We're gonna get the tip. Real quick. Who are your last two?
My last two, 50 Cent.
that's a good one.
Yeah.
We all know how 50 came into the game, and then he had the beef with Ja Rule, and I think like he started like dissing Ja Rule, and he would diss the type of music Ja made, only to go and make the same type of music afterwards. Like, you know what I'm saying? Only to come back and I hear, I take you to the candy shop and magic stick and all that bullshit like that. From what up blood, what up cuz, what up gangster to that, it was just kind of crazy. Like, and it, I didn't like it. It might have worked. It might have worked for his pockets at the time, but I didn't like it. You know what I'm saying? It was a blatant. It was just ironic. You know what I'm saying? But it was a blatant attempt at capitalizing on a certain sound that was popular, a sound that you dissed. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I'm gonna stay in Queens for my second one. I'm gonna go with Nori. Noriega from CNN. That's like a grimy street album. I love that album. Grimy street album. Then he came out with his solo John, and I like that John too. When he saw how Super Thug was so successful, he went off the fucking deep end and his shit was never the same. It was never the same after that, yo. Like if you can look at the next one was Melvin Flint.
Yep.
And then he started doing reggaeton. Like it went
Reggaeton.
You know what I'm saying? His shit went off the deep end. You know what I'm saying? Like he fell in love with that Pharrell sound, yo. Like he fell in love with that shit.
You know what? That Nina Sky joint would have been dope if they took out Nori. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
They take out Nori, that's a dope joint, but yeah.
I'm like, is this even the same dude? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this ain't the dude from TONY.
Right.
This is not him. This is somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Again, he saw the success of that sound and that, he fell in love with that shit, man. So Nori was my second one.
All right. So I got a couple of things I want to go through. So Byron thing with Tip. First time I heard it, I was like a what the fuck moment. But I didn't know like if it was a sellout because I didn't know like who was supposed to play this. Like it didn't sound like what was on the radio. So in my mind, I was like, where does this fit into like a program director's? I think this is my radio mind coming into play. Like it didn't sound like anything else that was like kind of out at that time. So I knew it was different and I didn't like it. But I felt like at that time, like, I don't know, what was Violent thing? That was like, I'm back at
99.
So it was like 99. So I'm trying to remember like what rap was in that. Well, needless to say, I mean, I just didn't know like if it would fit in. I just kind of looked at it like, this is to the left. You know what I mean? Like even with Breathe and Stop, like I didn't know like how does this fit in to any type of rotation? Like what do you mix this with?
I think the thing I could think, and I'm not necessarily thinking of radio, but I'm thinking of the videos that were popular at the time.
Oh yeah, he definitely went with the
like the Lil X videos and all that stuff with the girls all in the video.
Yeah,
like
he definitely went that route.
Yeah.
All right.
And
Hey, what about you? Did you think that was Sellout?
You said who, me?
Yeah, Q-Tip with Vibrant thing.
Sort of because I was a big Tribe fan, but I liked it better than what did we say? Once Again?
Yeah, but once again, Tribe.
I liked it better than that because that beat was dope, and they played it in the club. It was part of club mixes more than anything, like party records and shit. But the Tribe fan in me didn't like, seeing Q-Tip on the cover dressed like Macy Gray and shit. I was just like, who the fuck is that? Like what? You got feathers on your jeans, nigga?
You know the funny thing with Tip? I think Tip is that type, or and Nick used to say this. Like, to me, Tip is cut from that 3000 cloth, but I feel like down south rappers, they get a pass for being able to try different things. Like, I feel like if Andre 3000 was from Queens, I don't think he's able to be Andre 3000 right now through all his weird ups and downs and shit like that. Like, I don't know what it is about up north. Like, we just don't play that shit. Whereas in Atlanta and down south, they have more freedom. Like, same thing with CeeLo. Like, this nigga went from a rapper to a singer to the voice, and nobody ever stopped liking CeeLo. He came out with the song "Fuck You," and it's cool. Like, oh, you sing, you rap, and it's all cool. But like, God forbid, let Prodigy have tried that shit, or or Month try that shit, or somebody else try that shit. And it would have been like, yo, we ain't doing that.
All right. Speaking of Prodigy, what y'all think about that Mobb Deep with 112 joint?
Oh, that was definitely a crossover. That was in my eyes, that was Sellout 100%. Nigga, you got song with 112.
I gotta speak on that. Yeah, so that song, the beginning of that song, like when Prodigy verse coming in, and he's like almost whispering. I was like, yo, what the fuck, bro? Like, you know, I thought about the mob. I was like, yo, this shit, and it's not
He's
even
trying to get his baritone, like sexy voice.
He was like, hey, I want to hold you and walk with you, put my hand around my shoulder. I was like,
Yeah. See, that's the same shit I be thinking about West Side Gun. Not saying he got money like this, but I be thinking like, oh, this that broke love. This that buy you Jordans for your birthday love. Like,
yeah,
like get a different beat. She don't even get that. Like,
Cheesecake Factory love, take you there.
Hell yeah, order what you want. Order
Yeah,
Right.
Advertisers, all that, baby.
Right.
Oh god.
But
Right,
hold on, let me talk about Q-Tip real quick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, Vibrant thing was not what I expected. That's what kind of threw me off more than so it being like crossover. Like I was not expecting that at all.
Yeah.
But
I don't think anybody was. When they sent me the vinyl, it was like, yo, it was that Jay-Z feeling again. It was like, yo, we got the new Q-Tip solo. Put the record on. We was like, the fuck?
Yo, but the crazy
I had so many the fuck moments in my life. And anybody out there watching who's ahead, you know, you have the fuck moments. Like, what is this? Like, that is not what I was expecting to hear from the
Right.
Q-Tip solo joint.
But something about him, I could see that in him. Like, I wasn't surprised that he did that. Like, I don't know, it's something about Q. Like you were saying, he got a little Andre 3000 in him. I could see it. Like, I could see that in him, and I wasn't surprised after calming down and as a Tribe fan and just digesting what I was seeing. Like, I could see him doing it. I could see that was in him a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So
I mean, even the Kamala Abstract album that got shelved, like I remember there was this ad that people had, like he was in the like Village Voice looking for musicians and looking for singers. Like, you know, he wanted to do that Andre 3000 weirdo shit. And I'm not saying weirdo in a disrespectful way.
He was singing on that joint, too.
I'm just saying, like, he wanted to branch out outside the 16 bars. He wanted to learn how to play the piano and shit like that. And even the joint that the one he has with the MPC on the cover of it. You know what I mean? That's not really tribe. Yeah, I like it, but it's not really tribe-ish. You know, he has it, but it's like, so like you said, it's just, to me, he was that dude. Tell me this. Now, Anthony Hamilton, I love Coming From Where I'm From. I think it's a 5 mic classic, soulfulness. Ain't Nobody Worrying was still there. I felt like after that, Anthony was kind of less soulful and more R&B-ish. You know, do y'all see Sellout with that? Because I felt like he went away from the soul and was trying to get more R&B placements on the radio. What y'all think about Anthony Hamilton?
I agree. I think even though like I hate John Legend, even though he's had records I like, I sort of felt the same way with his style of singing, but that I have that first album, and I think it was the production. That production combined with his really like soulful, and when we say soulful, we're talking about like Otis Redding.
Yeah.
You know,
like you hear the pain in that nigga voice.
Right,
like,
right.
There's some soul singing
Right.
going on in that.
So
It's funny because I felt
that.
like he got back to it on this new album. And a lot of people haven't heard this.
Hell yeah.
But if you like Coming Where I'm From, this is probably the closest
That
thing
joint
you're
is
going to get to
fire.
this joint right here.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he remakes one of my favorite Luther songs ever, Superstar, with old girl, oh man, I can't see shit, and I can't remember, Jennifer Hudson. And Jennifer Hudson actually stays in pocket with this. My beef with Jennifer Hudson is she's Neffy. Every time she sings, she's Neffy. This, she stays in pocket. So anybody out there who's missing that soulful joint, this is it. It feels weird because this feels like a Only Built for Cuban Links 2, or like a Stillmatic. Like he's back with Jermaine Dupri, who helped produce the first album. It's soul. if you fuck with it, you should fuck with this. So
Dope, yeah.
yeah, very
Damn,
dope
I got
album.
2 joints to listen to now. Get
Yeah,
lit.
very dope album. Very dope album. Bink got 2 joints on here that's crazy too. Eddie, what do you think about Anthony Hamilton? Do you think it was a sellout when it was like less soul, more R&B?
I don't think it was necessarily a sellout. And obviously, I don't know what he was thinking, but I think possibly maybe he didn't want to get pigeonholed. You know what I mean? Because a lot of artists were getting pigeonholed into like this neo soul, right? And Anthony Hamilton was right there, right? Whether it was his intention to be neo soul or just make music that he was influenced by, right? Because you could tell, like you mentioned Otis Redding and other artists, like you could tell that first album he had influences, but maybe he didn't want to be pigeonholed. Maybe he wanted to do other stuff. I think in certain albums, like he might have strayed a little bit, he sounded a little bit too clean, right? Yeah. So,
Because I almost think of the flip. People didn't like, black folk really didn't like Whitney at first. I mean, we liked her, but she'd get booed at the Grammys and things like that. And it wasn't until that I'm Your Baby Tonight album where she got with Babyface, they felt like her sound was too white. It was too popish. You know what I'm saying? So I just didn't know if it was kind of like the flip. Now I know Anthony Hamilton never went pop, but it just seemed like, even with coming from where I'm from, I mean, you got Charlene, but to me, that wasn't made for the radio. That just happened to be the single and niggas fucked with Charlene, where after Ain't Nobody Worrying, I felt like he started trying to make more songs for the radio versus.
Yeah, that joint with David Banner.
Yeah.
Bro,
yeah.
I mean, I think it kind of scared a little bit. Yeah.
Bro, what do you think about Anthony Hamilton?
Yo, I'm about to get crucified for this, man.
You don't like Anthony Hamilton? I get it.
I never really got into, like, y'all gotta point me in the right direction, like
Coming from where I'm from.
Cause
That's
shit,
it.
like, it be sounding like slave music. Like I don't even want to hear that shit, bro. Like I ain't gonna hold you. I ain't gonna hold you, man. Like,
Yo,
bro.
you was on you wasn't on the last episode when I was telling when JR got pissed with me because I was like, N.D.I.Ree's fucking album sounded like a fucking soundtrack to like the Runaway, like the Underground Railroad. Like me, I
know you pissed him off.
He was pissed, but it's a true story. T loved that song video with the Put It In Your Mouth beat that she was doing over. She's like, it's a positive song. We drove to Rockville, Maryland, the Tower Records, and popped that CD and drove all the way back to Silver Spring, and we were like, never the fuck again. We like 1,800 slaves just got freed on fucking $4.95 listening to this fucking album. Like, yo. And literally never listened to it again. T, we went all the way to fucking Rockville. And JR thinks I'm lying. I said, next time you come over my house, just say fucking N.D.I.Ree to Tanya, and I guarantee you she will give you the look of, niggas, slaves got freed by the time we got home. Like, this was our public service as black folk to free more slaves for listening to this album. So I can't get mad at you for saying fucking this sound like some slave ass music. I
talk about me with the hoodie. Well, in the all black.
I got the biggies, you know what I mean?
I swear 1,800 slaves got freed that night. Their spirits, their souls got freed, or some shit happened. Like something happened in the atmosphere after listening to that album. So I feel you. If you want to give it a listen, coming from where I'm from is to me his best shot. Veg, you kind of touched on this with Mary. What did y'all think about Boyz II Men's second album? Because I love the sound of the first album, the Dallas Austin sound. I think it's a 5 mic classic. But then on the second album, they're working with Babyface, they're working with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, they're making these bigger songs, Water Run Dry. And I have no beef with some of these songs. These, I love some of these songs, but it just was a different sound. And it just felt like, okay, you kind of went with Dallas Austin, incredible album, and y'all were big, and then you did End of the Road with Babyface, which just took you to a whole nother plateau of stardomness, and then you kind of just stayed with them and didn't go back to Dallas. So, the young producer in me is looking like, damn, that's fucked up. Like, yo, Dallas just laced y'all, whatever. Yeah, Face hit you with the End of the Road, which is a crazy song, but it just kept it going. And I felt like Mary was very similar coming off of It's the 411. in the like vein what you were talking about, Share My World, like now we're dealing with these bigger name producers, you know. So did you feel like Boyz II Men were trying to go pop? And keeping in mind, a lot of these songs, Water Runs Dry and what's that shit? I can't even remember half these names, but got them into a bigger audience, into a bigger pop audience. So did you feel vague? Did you feel like Boyz II Men kind of sold out with that second album or the third album as they kept growing?
I think maybe the third more than the second because like Water Run Dry, like yo, I sing that like that's a church hymn because I
and keep in mind that's why I said I love the songs, but it just was like you abandoned the first person you was with and kind of went with the big heavy hitters this go round.
Yeah, like I think what Babyface, just like with Mary J, they harnessed what was best about them, which was their vocal ability. And I felt like, you know, stuff like, not that every song sound like this, but like Motown Philly, that era was dying anyway. And this kind of put them in a place where even those fans could still like them and new fans could like them as well. It didn't sound like they compromised anything because like loving a record like Please Don't Go, I didn't feel like, damn, I want another one of those. I felt like they just were so good that most of the joints that I love off of their second album kind of still gave you that. But then, like you said, when it came to the third album, it was like, okay, well now they shooting for it and it doesn't feel the same. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah, I didn't feel like they were, even though they crossed over, I didn't feel like it was compromising their integrity.
Their artistic integrity. Okay. Eddie, what do you think about Boyz II Men?
I love that second album. I think maybe one or two songs that kind of after a while, like probably I'll Make Love to You, like we just had a little bit of that cheese factor after a while. Like even it was such a big song, I skipped, but the rest of it, like the Water Runs Dry and even on Bended Knee, like I didn't have a problem with that joint. I mean, they had joints like Vibin' and what was the other joint? I mean, they had a little bit of diversity. It wasn't all ballads, you know.
Right. My shit was Thank You. The first song you put on was Thank You. And I like that joint. You know, so again, it's not that I didn't like the album.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I do agree with Vegas. Like that third album, what was it? The one with 4 Seasons of Loneliness and a song for Mama and all that. Like, it started getting a little corny.
Right. All right. Rel, what about you? Philadelphia's finest.
I think the second album was a transition into. It was like a transition period into those type of songs. I think when you get, because you got to see the trajectory of the first album and the singles, and then you get End of the Road, and it's like a smash, and it's everywhere. And I think it's only natural for people to try to be like, okay, how can we, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of like Babyface. We obviously got some synergy. We just did End of the Road, or same thing with Mary. Hey, Face, we got some synergy. We just did, you know, the Wait and Exhale song, you know, Not Gonna Cry. Let's keep rocking with each other.
Right. I think their sound got cleaner. Like, my favorite song off of the first one is Please Don't Go. And if you listen to that song, it's not as clean. And, you know, music people, you know what I mean when I say clean. It's not as clean as what their future songs became. So I think that second album, it was like a transition period into, like Veg said, the third album where it was just, you know, completely that way. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's what it was.
All right. And this last joint, I don't know if y'all remember this because I'm probably one of the only people who loved them as much as I do. Dilated Peoples. They had a song called My Way, which Kanye produced, which was just like a Get By knockoff. Like it was almost like they just said, hey, you know what? Let just Kanye give us a Get By. You know what I mean? So, Veg, I don't know if you remember. Do you remember that joint, Veg?
I don't remember Dilated Peoples.
God damn, man. Y'all are tough on this show, man. Dilated is so dope. It's so funny that so many people don't fuck with them like that. I love Dilated.
I remember their name and them, because honestly, being at WEAA, that was the first time I really got a look at them, you know, as far as their music or whatever, but just nothing stuck with me. So.
I'm going to send you my Best of Dilated mixtape, man. I think you may fuck with them. Or you may not, because a lot of people...
Yeah, so I ain't got to worry about not getting pussy. So you can send it to me.
Because the thing is... the thing is with... Do you like Evidence?
Yes.
Okay, then you'll like Dilated. Most people don't like Dilated because of Evidence's voice. Most people be like, your man, the white boy, I don't like him. So if you like Evidence, then you'll probably like Dilated.
Yeah, send me that joint. I'll mess with it.
Yeah, Eddie, what about that? Because you knew exactly what I was talking about. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, how cheesy can we get? Like, this is just
I love
broke ass get by. And it was so much not their sound on top of that, too. Like, it doesn't...
The same... It was almost the same
for
exact
people like
piano.
Dilated is Alchemist does the bulk of Dilated's work. So we're talking about Alchemist 2010 before he forgot what a drum was. So that's the sound of Dilated people. So to then go to this, like Rel was saying, a very much cleaner Kanye sound for your first single, it was just like, yo, this shit.
I mean, they had that joint, the Worst Comes to Worst. Like,
which was hard as hell.
It was hard as hell. With the Mobb Deep sample and all that, right? And it sounded like Get By Part 2, like this piano. It sounded like a copy paste. Oh wait, it can't sound too much. Let's check. Choir, like to the point where like they had this time I'm gonna change my mind. Yeah,
it literally was to the T of like, why don't we just give them the same fucking beat you gave to Live and just call it a day? Like, this is
right. But to the point where it wasn't just the beat, but then the choir and singing and just it was at that point that's probably where I checked out. I'm like, right.
Who else was in the group?
It's Rocka Ira Science, Evidence, and DJ Babu.
Right. Okay.
So I always tell people, if you like Evidence, especially if you like Evidence, this 75% of their album is produced by Alchemist. And again, this is 2000 to 2010 Alchemist. So the beats are crazy, two dope MCs. Babu was scratching like fucking his 1984 at the fucking New Music Seminar or some shit like that. You know, I think you'll fuck with Dilated.
DJ Babu was he was involved in the Sound Bombing album, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I think he's part of the Beat Junkies. I think he was, but don't get me lying. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
Bro, do you remember this Dilated song?
Yeah. And here's the thing. I'm not gonna say that act like I was the biggest Dilated fan, but that song, they don't even. Boy is not comfortable rapping on this song. Like the first verse, I was done after that. Like I was done. He don't sound comfortable. Like from what you hear them over other type of beats, and he don't sound comfortable. And then the formula is so clear on this joint. Like this is Get By 0.5. This is like it's like they might as well, like you said, might as well give him the same beat. Like the so the same with the singing. It's
might as well have featured Talib himself on that joint.
But I think the bad part is that this is where labels are like, we need a Get By. And as the producer for hire, you just like, cool, you want another Get By? Cool. That was a 91.5 tempo. Let me make the same. Like, that's what you want. That's what you writing the check for. No problem. I'll give you another Get By. You know what I mean? And the funny thing is again, the most ironic thing about so many MCs now being independent, being on their own, you still come up against the same shit that happened with labels. Like when I did Dice Game for Math Regulars, I know mad niggas, give me a Dice Game. And it's like, I don't even know what the fuck that means. Do you want to just beat with no drums in it? Like, you know what I mean? So it's the label would be like, yo, give me another Get By. People like, oh, that's whack. But then you got underground MCs on SoundCloud that's like, yo, give me another, Dice Game. So it's funny because these MCs will complain about what the record labels did, but now that niggas are indie and doing whatever they want on their own, they still are trying to follow the same trends as everybody else is doing. You know, so I think it's ironic. One thing I love about Dilated, they're on Rhyme Sayers. Their album covers, Rhyme Sayers is just crazy with their album covers. So the name of this album is Director of Photography. Now, Evidence is a photographer. So each joint has what were these things called back in the day, y'all? My brain is dead. A Polaroid. And then on the back, it has all the information about each song. And I just thought that was fucking just and such a dope idea. Like, so all the liner notes are just different Polaroids that they took. That I just was like, yo, that's dope as hell. Yeah. All right, cool. So I think prayerfully, you know, people have figured out, you know, what a crossover is, you know, all those things. What do you think right now in 2023 is a crossover? Do you think it's trying to go drill? Like, what would you think? Like, if me and Vegas' next album, Vegas, you know, we doing a little Uzi dance, like, what is crossover now?
Hey, that would be funny as shit. Go ahead. You and Veg doing the Uzi dance? The little
Uzi dance, yeah. You know, Vegas say be in the club, he likes to dance, man. You never know, man. But what would y'all look at? What would you look at as a sellout move now from just an artist that you love? So if your favorite artist is AZ right now, you know, if your favorite artist is Conway, what would be a sellout move for you in 2023?
Me?
Yeah.
I think because of what you mentioned, well, you wasn't really talking about this, but I think because the game is so different now and you could be independent all on your own, you could be your whole record label, everything. I think it's only a sellout move if you get hot with one sound, because it's almost like if I'm a SoundCloud rapper and I'm kind of underground and I blow up, and then when I finally release a major label release, it's totally different from what I was doing before. And it's never the boom bap route. It's always what's popular. I think that some people would consider that a sellout. Like when I hear like Benny or Conway rap over a trap beat or drill beat, I actually like that shit. Because they still talk the same shit and they could do that. But I never look at it as, oh, they trying to get on the radio, because I know the kids. They don't want to hear these niggas. Like, no matter what age Benny is, they like, them niggas is old. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. It's difficult because it's like so many different pockets in which you could be as an artist that, you know, maybe you lose some of the rawness that was, you know, with your video and your music before, and now it's more polished. But I mean, like Kendrick drop a different kind of album every time, and I never feel like, oh, he went too far. Like,
but do you think that's because Kendrick to me has come from that Andre 3000 cloth? Like, he's an artist, so you never know what you're gonna get.
But we didn't really know that with Good Kid, Mad Cities and all them damn freestyles and shit. It was like, yo, this is a West Coast dude who could spit, and then he gave us the Pimp a Butterfly, and it was like, oh, he's like Andre in a lot of ways. Right. You know, and now he's kind of been that, you know,
ever since.
Part, so, yeah.
Right. Eddie, what about you? What would be a sellout move? Like, would it be? I know you love Sky Zoo. Like, if Sky Zoo was doing a drill album, like
if, you know, I think Sky Zoo kind of teased that he could sound good over a trap beat. On that, I should have been a trap rapper joint, right? Mm-hmm. So him over a trap beat, I wouldn't be mad at. Just the same way with Royce did it with that mixtape. What was that shit called?
I know what you're talking about. He was rhyming over all the bar exam for, which I didn't mind, because that actually helped me work with my kids, because my kids would be like, "Oh, that's such beat," and I'm like, "Yeah, but it's such spitting like this," you know. And they'd be like, "Nah, like, this nigga's nice."
I think what would be a sellout would be not necessarily, but be doing like that Ice Spice type shit. You know what I mean? I don't even know what you call that.
I don't even know who Ice Spice. What is that?
Yeah,
it's the Family Dollar version of Old Spice.
Ice Spice.
Yeah, is it a rapper? Is he a rapper?
It's a female rapper.
It's a female. She got this this joint called Munch that just went completely
Oh, is that
viral
the joint with the fucked up
with the
hair?
orange hair.
Yeah,
The orange hair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Her name is Ice Spice.
Ice Spice. I mean, it is more of a combination of, it's dumbing down the production and kind of the lyrics, and I don't know. I think for me, the selling out would be not just the production, but just the dumbing down part.
Okay. All right. And what about you, Ralph?
Like, it's the music is we're in like a weird different space that it's really hard to even answer that question. There's so much stuff out, different types, and then like Vague was saying, like you can just kind of do what the hell you want. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of hard for me to say what would be selling out. I guess it would be when you can hear the song or see or you can tell that this is not you. This is forced. Like, but even that, like a lot of these people that's out now, like it ain't really them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
So it's kind of difficult to answer that question. You know what I'm saying? Like, because the first person I thought about was like who I listen to now. That's like first person I thought about was Benny, right? And I'm like, but Benny over trap beat kind of sounds cool. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, what? Right. I don't know.
I know with Benny, when I first heard he was fucking with Hit Boy, I was like, uh-oh. But this was like not Hit Boy. I was thinking Hit Boy with Nas. The same way I think most of us, when we heard Nas was messing with Hit Boy, it's like, oh, we don't know what we're going to get. Not knowing that I love Burden Proof. You know, I think Hit Boy laced Benny. You know what I mean? But I think just the name at first, I was like, here we go. You know, go up a little bit in the underground, and now you getting with Hit Boy. Right. And again, Hit Boy has proven me wrong on every motherfucking turn, you know, of me doubting him. He's come through in the clutch. What are you saying, Eddie?
I would say probably the move, aside from the Ice Spice shit I was talking about, would be linking up with like a DJ Khaled or something.
Okay.
Like Benny over DJ Khaled would be freaking terrible.
And see, the funny part is I don't even know what, because DJ Khaled doesn't even make beats. So I think it's just over the right. Again, I'm still stuck on the beat. Like certain people, like I think Conway always kind of, when I think of Conway, I felt like he's the type of MC to me that's like Big. Not that he's as nice as Big, but I felt like you can put Big over Impeach the President, you can put Big over this, you can put Big over that. He's just gonna sound good any which way. So I think kind of like what Vegas is saying, Conway and Benny to me are kind of like really great MCs. And it's really hard. It's just the fact that they're both in the same crew or were in the same crew. And they both can, you want to give them trap beats, they can kill that. You want to give them, you know, drill beats, they can kill that. You want to give them no drums, they can kill that. You want to give them break beats, they can kill it. They just sound good on everything. Now, that's not the majority of rappers that are out here. You know, the majority of rappers out here, you can't just throw on Impeach the President and just let them niggas go to work. Like, just when in those Griselda days, when they would be on those freestyle things, man, them niggas would be tearing shit down. You know what I mean? What you gonna say, Ralph?
I think if I to comment on what Eddie said, like about like Benny with Khaled, I think if that something like that was a habit, I would look at Khaled worse than I would look at Benny. So I would look like he was just rapping on, you know what I'm saying? Like those songs that he has with all these different artists, I feel like he would just be picking on who's hot at the moment. And I kind of wouldn't look at Benny as bad as I would, as negative as I would look at Khaled if he would have reached out to Benny, because you wouldn't have done that if they weren't popular. You get what I'm saying? Like you wouldn't have reached out.
It's funny because Naomi was playing me some girl. She's like a singer rapper, and Benny's on it, and I was like, "Oh, this is Sellout." Like, and here's the other part too. You just wanted to chat. You know what I mean? So I think that's the new way to kind of put the spin on Sellout. Because I'm just like, and Benny's talking his shit. Like, he's talking his shit, but it's just like, you like on some little high school girl's fucking song. Like, I don't know who she is. And I don't mean that she's in high school, but like high school kids like her. And this is not Armani Caesar. This is not no hip hop R&B. This is like some straight And I'll find out from Naomi tomorrow who she is. But she was like, "Hey, Daddy, Benny, Benny's on this joint." You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, "Okay, cool. All right." And then I hear it, I was like, "Nah, that ain't a good look." What you gonna say, Veg?
No, I was gonna say, I think with the difference with Khaled with Griselda, I think he's self-aware about who they are. So you're not gonna get, a We the Best featuring Griselda. You know what I'm saying? He would probably give them something close to what they usually do. Because don't get me wrong, I'm not no Khaled fan, but I remember being surprised at how much I liked the Major Keys album, because the songs that he had all these different artists on, including Nas record with him, but the Lauryn Hill sample, they just sound like a Nas record. You know what I mean? But if it would have been a We the Best and he got Nas and Future, then I would have been like, nobody want to hear this bullshit.
Right. It's a good point.
Yeah. You know what? I want to mention an artist who I don't know what this guy could do that would make me be like, you don't sound good on it. Freddie Gibbs, man. I feel like Freddie Gibbs could do whatever. I mean, he was on an album cover looking like Teddy Pendergrass, and I mean, people are still rocking with that. He worked with Madlib. He does his trap stuff. I mean,
I think he's just, again, like, he's one of those anomalies. Like, you know what I mean? Again, Freddie is one of those MCs who you can put him on whatever you throw at him, he's gonna do. He's that ball player no matter what we do, whatever defense, put him on him, play his own, play a 3-2, play a 2-3, play a man, double him. Like, he's just gonna get buckets. You know what I mean? I feel like that's Freddie. Again, that's not the average MC. Like, it's probably like 5% or 10% of the MCs walking the planet Earth can do what Freddie can do. You know what I mean? So yeah. All right, good looking out. Eddie, where can they get at you, man?
All right, man. On Twitter at EddieB80 and Instagram at Freestyles.
All right, Bench to the Turtle T-shirt, Vague. Talk to him about Will Matic, man.
Will Matic, available at vegasworldinc.bandcamp.com. Also available on all digital streaming platforms, and you can also purchase it on iTunes. All proceeds go to my aunt Versi, who is Ill Will's mom's.
All right, and also your podcast.
Yeah, so about that. So people know I've done a million different podcasts, but mostly for fun, casually. Hip Hop Now podcast obviously will continue. But I have officially ended Hip Hop Twitter. 2 seasons, 24 episodes, still worth listening if you haven't. And my boxing podcast, Championship Rounds podcast. Shout out to Robert Silva and Tony, also again for Hip Hop Twitter. But basically the idea was initially for me to not make it feel like work. I work in media. It was a casual thing. I had fun, but had a revelation during a podcasting festival, watching audience reactions to people focusing on creativity and art and information. And I felt like I was shortchanging, in some regards, people who would tune into all of my podcasts. So I focused I basically, again, Hip Hop Now podcast, still a hip hop news source, but I have a new podcast that will be interview based called My Little Podcast, and it's about creatives being creative. So it's whether you're a musician, author, an executive, a filmmaker, whatever it may be, we're just going to dig into their creative process, their history, and a number of things. So if you're watching this, it's already available with a trailer for you to read about it, to listen to the trailer, and subscribe early. And it'll be a seasonal podcast, so I'll have a couple of interviews up in the coming months. So.
All right, no doubt. And where can I get at you?
You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at VegasWorldINC. And definitely, I got a couple of more hip hop joints that's like some music that we're going to put out eventually. Shout out to DJ Ray.
All right. Rel, where can they get at you in the new single, good brother?
Get at me at Uptown Rel 215 on IG, JPen215 on Twitter, and my single called Fear is produced by my man Kill right here. It's real good listen. Give it a try. It's
crazy.
Appreciate you. It's Jarrell, JARELL 215.bandcamp.com and on all your streaming platforms. It's my first real single for the album that I'm working on, and it's real relevant to stuff that's going on today. And Kill blessed me with a beat, and it worked. So give it a try. I won't steer you wrong.
All right. You already know this with me, Kill 889 Twitter, IG. I will check y'all next week, good peoples.